Okay, look, let's see what's happening. Hey folks, good evening. Welcome to another morning space with me, Kalu Aja. Of course, on our space every Sunday, every week, we're talking money, the economy, and finance, personal finance, right? So, welcome, guys. This week we are talking Nigeria. We're doing an economic review of Nigeria from May 2023 till May 2026, which of course means that we're reviewing the economic performance of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. How well has he done? What has he promised? What has he delivered? How is the economy so far? That's what we're doing today, guys. So, as usual, I've got a few slides I'm going to share with y'all, just sort of capture, should we say, the visuals of who we're going to talk about on the audio call. We are on the YouTube. We are also on Twitter. So if you go to Twitter, you would see um, the space link. We're gonna share the tweets under that space link so you can follow visually. I've created lots of great slides for you guys. So just follow. It will sort of like put you in the right visual space. Again, guys, it's going to be an interactive session. This is more like you guys are going to talk and give me your scorecard. Where do you feel we are in Nigeria at vis-a-vis the economy? But let me just give you, as we say, the overall economic numbers, just sort of situate it for you, and then we can go from there. Again, guys, we're going to be as professional as we possibly can. We want to make sure that we are giving you the right figures. If you're here to bash, wrong space. If you're here to praise, wrong space. It's just going to be pure data, facts, and figures. So let's get straight into it, ladies and gentlemen, right? Let's start with an overview of where Nigeria is in terms of the macroeconomic indicators. Of course, these are the big numbers, the macro, the top-down numbers. We want to see where we were in 2023. We want to compare that to where we were in 2026. So again, share that visual on Twitter, and of course, we're on YouTube. So what are we looking at? Let's start with inflation. Inflation was about 22.4 in May 2023. It went up considerably during the year, went up big time because food became very expensive and inflation has been dropping. 15.7, as you see, is actually slightly up, but that's just because of the war in Iran. But overall, inflation has come down, right? So why has inflation come down, really? There are two things happening to inflation. Number one, we changed the methodology of how we of how we measure inflation in Nigeria. That's number one. So in the past, inflation was measured by counting food. Food was 51% of the CPI. Now we've reduced the proportion of food that we count to about 40%. So that has contributed to the numbers coming down, but also we've done a lot of imports of food in Nigeria. So a lot of food imports have come in, and that has brought the food prices down. And because food is a big factor in the inflation numbers, that has brought inflation come down. Unemployment, this is one number where you look at unemployment and you say the numbers just don't make any sense. The numbers are correct, but they don't make any sense, and I've explained. 2023, we're at about 33%. If you believe that, that means out of every 100 Nigerians that are looking for a job, only about 77 were employed. That's a very low number for Nigeria because everyone I know has a family member at home that's looking for work and all that. But right now, the numbers for inflation in Nigeria are below about 5%. Below about 5%. So you want to ask yourself, wow, who got that? Means that if you take 100 Nigerians, the key word is looking for a job. You have to be looking for a job to be unemployed. If you're just not employed but not looking for a job, you're not counted as unemployed. Not just in Nigeria, that's how they count unemployment everywhere in the world. So what Nigeria did was to change again the metrics of how they measure unemployment. They simply said, if you work for 1 hour in a week, you are employed. So once they used that metrics, unemployment fell in Nigeria officially to about 4.3%, below 5%. So like I said, the numbers are correct, but the methodology does not make any sense. How can you say if someone works for 1 hour? So if I clean cars for 1 hour in a week, I'm employed. It doesn't make any sense to call that employment. But that's what the numbers show. So we're going to go with those official numbers. GDP per capita, Nigeria, this is where you see the big fall in Nigeria's fortunes from about 2000 in 2023. Remember, this is 2023, 2000. If you go back to 2014, that was the richest Nigerians have ever been in our history, right? The numbers are nearly about 3,000, 4,000. So the GDP per capita has halved to about $2,000 per person. GDP per capita, I mean, $2,000 per person, right? And right now, we're at about, based on any argument or any numbers you want to look, about 1,600 to about 22 and 80, right? So we're just coming out of a hole that we were in 2023. Have things improved? Not so, because GDP is measuring output. So if you take that output and you divide it by the population growth, you get that GDP per capita. So what that means is that Nigeria is a very, very fertile nation in terms of population growth. We're growing about 2.9%. So when you grow the economy, you've got to at least grow to 3% just to keep pace with population before you even grow the economy, right? So let me give you a stat that I posted last week. If you go from Nigeria, right, from 1999, when we had the new democracy, from 1999 till 2014, when we had just one party that was ruling in like the executive power, that's the PDP, the lowest GDP number from 1999 till 2014, the lowest has been higher than the highest GDP number from 2015 to date. That's a crazy stat to say that for the last 1999 till 2014, the lowest number you could get if you look at the GDP per capita and even GDP has been higher than the highest number. That's the lowest number has been higher than the highest number generated from 2015 to date. So that just tells you the we have to first of all even match where Nigeria was in 2014, 2012, 2009, before we're even talking about growing the economy. Because the economy, remember what I said, we're growing about 2.93% population. So to even grow, you've got to grow much, much faster, right, than the population of Nigeria. Oil output, big missed opportunity again. Now, let me be clear. The President Tinubu has done a tremendous work in the oil GDP in Nigeria. If you go back and you look at the oil GDP in Nigeria, you will see a big, huge jump since the President Tinubu became the president. So he has expanded oil GDP in Nigeria, right? But look at the barrels per day that we're posting. It's about 1.5. We haven't really moved from 1.4 to that we were handed over. Nigeria was doing, give or take, about 2.2, 2.3 million barrels if you go back in about 2002, 2003, 2004, 5. That's why we were able to pay down our debt. The economy was booming and we had nearly 60 billion in foreign reserves. But right now, we're not growing output. OPEX output cut for us is about, OPEX output quota for us is about 1.5. So we're just barely doing that. And if we don't sell oil at this time, when we know that the world has an oil shock of the war in Iran, we're missing an opportunity, right? Oil is right now about, it was at 100, it's still hovering about there, but we're not selling enough oil to take that oil and pay down our debt. So I would say big, big, big missed opportunity for Nigeria there. Foreign reserves, one of the bright spots of the macroeconomic numbers so far, 36 billion when Tinubu took over, now about 50 billion. So Nigeria has attracted a lot of capital into the country, and we'll talk about that in detail. National debt, we took up in about 49 trillion in 2003, 49 trillion. Right now, we're give or take about maybe 150 trillion or more. There's an argument that the debt has not increased, that we haven't borrowed, but because we've devalued, the Naira debt has gone up. It's not really true. We've borrowed a lot. The president has borrowed a lot of money. Our debt to GDP is still very, very low, but our debt to revenues is very, very high. So the problem for Nigeria is that when we have all these borrowings, we have to pay back in dollars. So we are getting oil money, but 100%, 100% of the oil revenues that we make is going to pay back our service debt. So if we take all the oil money to service debt, how are we paying salaries? We're paying salaries from VAT, from company income tax, from customs. That's just salaries. So every kobo we use to build roads and do capital expenditure is borrowed. Nigeria is paying almost 50%. This is just from the budget. The budget is saying we want to pay 50% of our revenues to service the debt. This is the budget. Actually, it's higher than the budget. So we're paying much, much more than 50% to service the debt. And it's a big problem for the country and for the president because you can't do reforms on debt. You can, but if you are taking more of your revenues and you're paying more of your debt, you have very, very limited runway to then expand the economy. That's why you see all these borrowings that they are doing because there's just so much debt. So the broad summary is that the reforms have delivered. I'm going to get into the reforms. The reforms have delivered, but they brought a lot of pain to the average Nigerian, especially debt. This debt is a very, very key issue because debt is one thing that touches every Nigerian. When you borrow more, it's the same as if you are taxing. It's as if you are taxing. So what's going on is that Nigeria is borrowing, and we're taking those funds to repay the debt, which then removes funds that we could have used for health, education, and roads. That's the direct relationship to you guys. All right. So again, guys, let's just go in and do a few other slides that we're going to look at. Let's look at the macroeconomic stability. What was promised? So what I've done again is not to look at my own numbers. I went back to the Hope 2023 agenda from the APC government. So if you remember, there was this document that was circulated in 2023 by the by the candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu's team, and that was the Hope 2023 campaign manifesto. And in that manifesto, what I did was to go in and pick all the economic promises that were in that portfolio. What did they say? Because I want to pick their own words and to score them against their own words, targets, and milestones, not my own words. So that way, it's sort of like you said you were going to do this. Have you been able to do that? And again, guys, if you're on Twitter or YouTube, I've put the figures out there so you can follow. So these are their own words, right? Not my own words. So let's do macroeconomic stability from May 2023 till today, May 2026. They promised a 6 to 8% GDP growth. We've only achieved about 3.9 GDP growth, right? So not really good enough. Not good enough. We haven't met the high target. Remember, we have to grow, like I said, to just cover population. So if you're going at 3.9% and population is about 3%, you're not really growing. You're doing about maybe 0.1 or 0.1% growth there. So not really a lot of growth in terms of output. Why? No electricity. No electricity. They promised to diversify the economy from oil. What have we done? Like I said, Tinubu has expanded the oil GDP, but what we've done is that we've grown the non-oil GDP. Nigeria is about 97% non-oil. So that's impressive. But when you look at that number, keep in mind that the revenues, the foreign revenues that come to Nigeria are 80% crude oil. So whilst the economy as a whole has diversified away from crude oil, I think the biggest part of the economy is now agriculture. You have real estate, construction, services, telecoms, before you get to oil is less than 5% of the Nigerian economy. But the problem is that 88% of the foreign income of Nigeria is still coming from crude oil. So you have to weigh those two, that yes, we've diversified, good job there, but you haven't diversified the foreign exchange sources. They plan to reduce fiscal deficit and to keep the deficit sustainable. We've not come near that. As a matter of fact, the debt service, the deficits are sky high. I mean, what we are operating as a debt service today, we should be the budget of Nigeria years ago. So we've not really tamped down on that borrowing. But the question is borrowing bad? No, it's not bad. You should borrow, you should run high debt deficits if you want to grow your economy. That's the problem. If you are borrowing to build roads, railways, ports, airports, schools, hospitals, no one would complain. I think the problem with Nigerians is that they're not seeing the effect of the borrowing in their lives. They're not seeing maybe roads to their villages being fixed, or they're not seeing power supplies in the cities. Which is hence they are saying, hey, let's stop the borrowing if we're not going to use that borrowing to make our lives better. That's the problem. Unify the FX rate. That was in the 2023 Hope agenda, and I think they've achieved that 100%. The rate is never going to be one to one. I mean, when I mean one to one, yeah, the black market rate and the official rate are never going to be the same. But clearly, the rates in Nigeria have been unified. We don't have 6 or 7 or 2 exchange rate. We just have that one exchange rate. What you get from your bank is literally what you can get on the Malam outside, right? And also, there is no, should we say, you can, if you want to import rice with forex, go and import rice with forex. My bank has written to me that I can spend nearly $10,000 on my card, my Naira card, things like that. So if you have money in Nigeria and you travel, the banks are letting you to spend money for a Naira card. That shows a lot of forex in the economy. Why is there forex in the economy? Because we've removed the dichotomy of forex rates. So now there's a lot of foreign portfolio investments, portfolio flowing to Nigeria because of that. That's the good part. So if you look at the whole macro picture, what have we done well? We've unified FX rate, fantastic. We've diversified away from oil. It's half-half because yes, we've diversified, but no, the revenues haven't been diversified. But for GDP growth and for reducing the debt, we have not done a good job on those two fronts. So what do you guys score them on macroeconomic stability? If you want to speak, just request to speak. I'll add you. I'm going to be done pretty soon. And you guys will have the floor to speak, right? Let's look at key sectorial promises. These are going to be your ministries, your agencies, what they said they were going to do, the summary version versus what they have done. This is the president's campaign versus the reality. The president said it was going to, for agriculture, that he was going to modernize farming and improve food security. Here it's called as mixed progress because there's food, but that food has been imported, right? So is it really a progress to say we have rice in Nigeria is cheap but it's imported? I think the promise must more or less we're going to modernize farming and produce our own food locally. We import a lot of tractors. They sat down in the warehouse. They were not sent out on time. So for agriculture, if you look at also the GDP output on the GDP numbers that the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics releases, it's either flat or anemic. So we haven't grown agriculture in Nigeria. Again, remember the former Minister of Agriculture was a guy called Additional, and he was just marvelous, right? Marvelous. And now I don't think anyone in this space can name Minister of Agriculture. So we dropped the ball on agriculture, making it modern, improving food output. Most of it is insecurity, yes, but we'll drop the ball on that. So I would say mixed progress there. For manufacturing, you can't manufacture, there's no power, right? If you look at manufacturing, you say Dangote is on all that. That's industry, but Dangote has his own power plant in that refinery. And all the big corporates that manufacture in Nigeria, the Bua Foods, the Nestle, they all have their own independent power capture plant. So you really can't have manufacturing, especially small, medium manufacturing, without power supply. And there's been no power supply in Nigeria. We're going to get to that. So I would say very, very modest progress on that front. Power and electricity, we don't have to waste too much time there. Really, really nothing has happened there. Again, that's just to be clear, to be unbiased. They've done a lot in distribution. Simon has come into Nigeria and they've done some investment. We've seen some improvements in, say, just the actual infrastructure. But you see, like President Goodluck used to say, with the thing with power, you have to do power 100% for people to see it. You can't start a transformer and then people will see small power. Then when you do two transformers, people will see more power. No, you've got to do the entire power chain before you see power. And unfortunately, as you guys had seen, even the World Bank had to pull back about $744 million from Nigeria that they are earmarked for the power sector because they had seen that the Nigerian consumers cannot afford to pay for power. So if we simply went abroad and borrowed money and invested in Nigeria, the Nigerian consumers are not able to pay back that power or that debt because it's too expensive. Nigerians can't afford anything that is priced in dollars. That's just the long and short of it. So power has been a big problem in Nigeria. It hasn't been solved. They are trying, but it also has not been solved. We're still having power outages and all that kind of stuff. Investment climate, this is one that we have to like cut the hair into, right? Nigeria is attracting a whole lot of money into Nigeria. The report we saw for capital importation, I think on a quarterly basis, that was a record. The Nigeria was able to attract, give or take, about 5 billion. That's like a record in Nigeria. I don't think we've attracted that amount of money in Nigeria in the past. But that money is not going to the quote unquote productive part of the economy. That is money that's going to banks to buy bonds, to buy shares, and all that, right? So it's foreign portfolio investments. And explain it better for you this way. Let's say you have a brother in Houston and your brother wants to invest $1 million in Nigeria. But he takes that $1 million in Nigeria and he takes it and he puts it in a bank in Nigeria and the bank pays him interest. So his money is in the bank. You are his brother, you're in Nigeria, you're not earning anything from the money in the bank. The interest goes back to your brother in Houston. But you are there, you don't have a job, you don't have anything doing, your brother have money in the bank, nothing's happening to you. That's foreign portfolio investment. If the money is there, you can argue that yes, the bank has got more money and would then lend to you, but you don't have any credit. Nigerians don't go to the bank to get a loan. So that's foreign portfolio. But when you talk about foreign direct investments, the difference is this. Your brother wants to buy things in Nigeria. So he maybe wants to buy a keke and wants to invest in Nigeria. He buys a keke or buys 10 kekes and gives one to you or makes you a manager and says, hey, manage this keke fleet for me. He has bought an investment in Nigeria. That's a foreign direct investment. So you have a job, you are creating jobs, you can feed your family, you can consume. So you can see a difference between that portfolio and direct. Everybody prefers direct because direct means you are creating jobs instantly. It's difficult for direct investment to go back to America. Your brother can say, oh, sell all my kekes and send me the money back. It's harder. But foreign portfolio, you can call the bank and say, hey, give me back my money. So if anything happens in Nigeria, all those money that we have in Nigeria from foreign portfolio can go in a week. But foreign direct investment is harder. It stays in Nigeria. So that's why everyone wants foreign direct. And we're attracting a lot of foreign portfolio investments, but not foreign direct investment. People argue and say the portfolio must come in first before direct comes in. But we'll spend 3 years. In the past in Nigeria, we've brought in foreign direct investment. Nigeria was the number one destination in Africa in the past. So what's the difference today? So that argument is clear. We are not really attracting long-term deep capital to grow Nigeria. Job creation, we talked about that already. We can't say we're at 4% or 5% unemployment. As a matter of fact, if you own a company and someone comes to you and writes in a proposal that Nigeria is at 5% unemployment, you won't listen to the guy again because you see these numbers are unrealistic. But that's our official numbers, but they are unrealistic. So the takeaway for us is some progress in diversification, but the core promises on jobs, power, and FDI are lagging behind. That's the problem in Nigeria. We're lagging behind on those core promises. Guys, we're going somewhere. So I'm giving you the core things this guy's promised, and you can see where we're being very, very fair, where they've done pretty well. We've given them that kudos, where they've not done well. We are actually calling them out on that. Let's do fiscal monetary policy. And this is the one we will now talk about, the one that really hits you home, the one that affects you. Again, we're sending those slides on Twitter and, of course, on YouTube. So if you want, you can actually go to YouTube or Twitter and you can follow us on the slides. If you look at the key one, remove fuel subsidy and redirect savings, we give them a very, very bold pass mark. Yes, the president has removed fuel subsidy. So what that means is that that's a revenue event. When Nigeria was using revenues to pay, was subsidizing fuel imports, which means that when NNPC sells oil, NNPC gets revenues. Then Nigeria will then take that revenue and subsidize the cost of local PMS. So all the revenues were wasting away. And there was JP Morgan, I think, released a report way back. I think it was Donald Boris regime and said Nigeria was the only country because JP Morgan is the bank that keeps oil receipts for Nigeria and most of the oil guys that sell crude oil. So only Nigeria had not increased their balances with JP Morgan. Every other country, Angola, that sell oil, had increased their balances. Only Nigeria had not increased their balances because we're doing fuel subsidy. So by removing fuel subsidy, President Tinubu did a very, and again, it's going to be controversial, very good thing for the economy. He removed the waste and the subsidy. He took that away and said, okay, there's all these revenues that are going. Let me give you another data point. We are paying more for health, we are paying more for subsidy than health education combined. Health education combined, we're paying more for subsidy. And that subsidy was just a waste. We are importing consumption. There is nothing wrong with subsidy. There is nothing wrong with subsidy. We made subsidy a bad word. In America, they subsidize PMS for farmers. They have a different diesel, different color that only farmers can use. There's nothing wrong with subsidy. The problem is that you can't subsidize imports because it's a double whammy. One, you're losing money. Two, you are supporting somebody abroad. If you subsidize local production, fine, you're losing revenues on the tax side, but you are creating consumption and wealth local side. But while subsidizing imports, and that subsidy was just corruption. I mean, we jailed a sitting member of the House for PMS corruption. Remember, guys? So by removing subsidy, I think the president did a very bold thing that was good for the economy. I think where he failed is that subsidy removal, he did not ring fence it. He should have ring fenced it, and because he controlled the Senate and all that, they should have agreed that this money would have been used for health and human services and infrastructure. Let me tell you what I mean. PTF, the Petroleum Trust Fund, that was the removal of subsidy. But we removed the subsidy, and Abacha gave it to Buhari and said, create a fund called Petroleum Trust Fund. And that's why you saw all those monies were going to infrastructure. Same with Shaw P. We removed subsidy, we created a fund with the proceeds, and those funds went into Shaw P. You saw you saw the buses in Abuja, that was all subsidy removal. But when the president removed subsidy, he should have had an agreement with the governor that this money will go to a fund, and this fund will only be used for health and human services and infrastructure. By simply taking the subsidy removal and paying it 100% into FAC, he lost control over it. So some governors are doing very well. Some governors are not doing very well. Remember, you got to hold your governors and local government chairmen to account the same way you hold the president to account. These guys are getting a lot of money. What are you doing with it? And yes, the president is the one on top, but we have to also ask questions of the governors. And the governors have received, in some instances, more than double the FAC they were receiving before this president came to office. What have they done with it? In your state, have you seen an increase in the health and human services you get from your government? Have you seen an increase in infrastructure in your own state, not the federal, in your state? So I think the president dropped the ball on not making sure that those monies went targeted. Why can't he call the governors and say, hey, we're all APC governors, we're going to build a road or we're going to build a rail through all APC states? Every state would have keyed in. We're going to take these revenues and we're going to build a road rail to connect all 36 states with revenues. That would have created jobs. That would have created a lot of consumption and would have seen where the subsidies monies went. But he just gave the money out. And so you can't call that money back again. It's gone. And so that's where it's a bold move, but I think the post-subsidy thing was not well managed. Also, you cannot just remove subsidies without having a palliative. Fuel subsidy went up by 300% cost of Nigerian households. There was no palliative, or there was no meaningful palliative. There are still no gas buses on Nigerian roads. Where are they? We are promised those gas buses will be there. Where are those gas? Well, they're not there yet. So good idea. I totally support it, but I think implementation went very bad, right? That's for fuel subsidy removal. Tax reforms also very good. The economy had been operating with an outdated tax law. I give you the story. When I had an office in Ikoyi, we were paying television tax. So in Nigeria, you pay tax for television in your office. Why television tax? Because in the 1930s, when we wrote those tax laws, if you had a television set, you were rich. So if you have a TV today, they can come to your office and say, oh, you have 10 TVs, pay tax for 10 TVs. It doesn't make any sense. TV doesn't mean you are wealthy today. So what TVs on our phones? So we have to reform those taxes. Also, when you work, gig work in Nigeria, in Nigerian laws in the past, you could not really get a gig work because if you do a gig work, the company has got to register in Nigeria. Who will come? Why will Amazon come to Nigeria when they can get the same job in India, Pakistan, and the rest? So we changed all those old laws into a new tax reform. Yes, it has some tax maybe increases there, But we modernized our tax structure, and I think you're going to see the benefits of this tax structure in the next decade. That's when the real benefits will start to show. When many of you are exporting and are bringing back money to Nigeria and not paying taxes, things like that. If you're an SME, you have 110 million, 100 million, I mean, you don't pay taxes. These are all the good benefits of the tax reform. So I would score that tax reform very, very good. If you notice they've been quiet about it now, I suspect they want to get through the elections before they bring up tax reform. But guys, you've got to pay attention to the tax reforms. If the law is there, keep your records and plan to pay taxes. So I would say good job there for them. CBN independence, I think they are halfway there. CBN has been very, very good. 50 billion in reserves is no joke. That's been from prudence and proper management. But then again, there is growth and there's inflation protection. Nigeria is fighting only inflation, right? Where is the growth? Where is the growth? SMEs cannot borrow at 30% and survive. So the CBN has got to think about how it can support growth in Nigeria whilst also fighting inflation. Managing debt, that's a big one, guys. We talked about that. We could not manage the debt. Debt has been going up and up and up. That's a big, big, big problem for Nigeria, essentially. We've got to get that debt under control, or at least use the debt properly. Guys, I did a special one for power. You know, of all the promises that I've listed here, these were all in the manifesto that the APC government did. If you notice, during the presidential campaign, President Tinubu was very, very careful not to make any promise directly. If you noticed, when he went to Chatham House, they would ask him a question. He would say, "Oh, I want the president to answer. Oh, I want the president to answer." He was very, very careful not to make any promises himself. But there's one promise he didn't make himself. And it's a very, very important promise. And I want us to talk about that promise. The promise on power. The president was asked about power, and these are his words. Whichever way, by all means necessary, you must have electricity. This is you means Nigerians. You must have electricity. And this is a key quote here. If I don't give you constant electricity in 4 years, don't vote for me. So President Tinubu in December 22nd, 2022 in Delta State made a promise to Nigerians that if he does not give constant electricity in 4 years, Nigerians should not vote for him. Direct promise. So where are we on power generation? We've already scored it low. You know, average generation is not more than 6,000. Daily supply is not 12 hours. It's for the whole Nigeria. You might have pockets of guys that are doing pretty well. The peak ever recorded in Nigeria is still 6,000 megawatts. This is from 1960 till today. The peak we have recorded in Nigeria is about 90, is still 6,000 megawatts. Now, I saw this quote someone shared with me on online. He said a fridge in the United States gets more power supply than a Nigerian does in a year. A fridge in the States gets more power than a Nigerian. You know, how can you grow an economy without power? How do you grow an economy without power? So it's a big problem that he hasn't fixed power. He has 1 more year to go. Do you think he's going to fix power in 1 more year? I doubt it. Are we making progress? Yes, we are. But he had 4 years to do this. There was in economics, there's what we call scale of preference, and there's what we call opportunity cost. So if you have an apple and you have an orange and you buy the apple, the cost of the apple was the orange you didn't buy. The cost of something is the cost of something foregone. So what's the cost of power? It's the cost of the other things that we did not do them. So if we bought a private jet, that's the cost of not having power. If we did roads, that's the cost of not having power. So you want to ask yourself, on the scale of preference, what is the one most important thing Nigeria could have done in 4 years? I would say power is going to be number one, number two. This is just taking away insecurity. If you remove insecurity, power supply is even more important, even than the normal food you eat. Because with the power, you make more food. Without power, what you harvest, you can't store, you can't process. But with power, you can harvest, you can store, you can process. So power supply is even more important than even the basics, because that allows you in a very populated economy like Nigeria to actually scale. And I think we failed on that. Modest progress, but the bold promise remains unfulfilled. So the president has got to keep to his words, right, and deliver power, because that's what he promised to Nigeria. Say, if I don't give you the power, don't vote for me. He's got one more year, and then we'll call it quits. Guys, this is my last slide. This is my last slide. And I picked this slide up from, this was 2022. And I picked this slide up on purpose, right? And even though we're doing an economic presentation, we just cannot talk about insecurity. There are many ways that insecurity tie back into the economy. Like I said, if there's no insecurity, there's more commerce, you can tax more. If there's insecurity, you cannot tax, so it falls. So security is really tied to growth. This slide is from 2021, not 2021. And why I picked this slide is this: look at the whole map. You see how they've defined insecurity in Nigeria. You see the bandits in the north west. You see the Boko Haram in the northeast. Middle belt, conflict between herders and farmers. If you go to the southwest, Yoruba separatists. You come to the southeast, Biafra separatists. You go to Niger Delta, you're talking about the men and those other folks that are there. You see pirates and criminal gangs. Of everything you see on this slide, there is not one that has been fixed. Okay, to be clear, I think I saw a report that piracy, Nigeria has really killed off piracy in the waters in the south. So we've killed off piracy, fantastic. But every other thing here is either getting worse and alarmingly worse. We have reports of large swaths of land abandoned. Boko Haram on a rampage up there, headers clash. Almost every week, month, we see something horrific going on. I mean, the United States is now bombing militants in Nigeria. That's where we are. The United States, this image you see on CNN, is happening in Nigeria. They are bombing militant camps in the country. How do we get here? So I don't know how we can talk about macroeconomics if we don't fix the security. There are many parts of the country today that there's no local governance, but those people are still receiving FARC. So we're getting money from oil, from agriculture, and we're paying into FARC. That money is going to lose some local government that are totally deserted today. So we can't talk about economy without fixing insecurity. And I think the president has to recognize that this is his number one job. It's only when he has fixed insecurity, he can then do power, he can do foreign reserves, he can do coastal road. What's the point of a coastal road if we have teachers being beheaded? All right, guys, let's go straight into the guys that have been waiting. Thank you guys for waiting. I just good to also put this out there that we can have a more detailed data talk. Let me get I've got Dr. Chinonso, then we're going to go to see you, then we'll get Godson. Dr. Chinonso, how are you doing, sir? Welcome. Thanks for hanging out and just listening to us speak. What's your take? What comes to your mind, sir? Look at reviewing the performance of President Tinubu.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everybody on board. Like I sent you a message that I'm coming to ask you questions, because there's this small group I normally go to on Monday afternoons, the New York political meetup, it's no particular political party, many guys come up to ask questions with facts and all that. So I always ask questions about Nigeria, but they always ignore me, but they have to bring up Nigeria on a Monday. So I was cool then. So I said, I'll ask you a question when I saw that you are hosting this space. So my first question is, I asked them a question that Tinubu is constructing coastal road. The guy, he's a professor. He said, no, so this building a coastal road is not HDI. And that was the first time, to be honest with you, Doc, this is the first time someone is telling me that constructing a road is not HDI. It hasn't crossed my mind before that road is not HDI. Then he asked me, if I can convert that money and place it in Naira, like how many hospitals will this do? Universities will this do? Doc, I want to ask a question. Constructing this road, is it like administrative failure not to look at something that will, improve life of Nigerians, or is it a misplaced priority to waste money willfully?
Okay, that's a direct question. I don't think so. I think whenever you invest in infrastructure, not just infrastructure, but something like the east to west road in Nigeria, that's a force multiplier. Go back to the economy of Nigeria. There is no railroad going from the east of Nigeria to the west of Nigeria. There is no major express road going from the east of Nigeria to the west of Nigeria. When I mean express, I mean one contiguous road that goes from the east to the west. Why? Because Nigeria was built by the British. The British built Nigeria to extract raw materials to Britain to export and then bring back the finished goods. So all the railways go from the north, which is where they and then to the south where the ports are. All the roads go from the north to the south where the ports are. You have two railways, the one from Kano to Lagos and the one from Maiduguri to Port Harcourt. That's how this country was set up. But the intra-trade in Nigeria is massive. You can't do intra-trade if you don't have an east to a west road. That's just going to take basic food or basic fuels east to the west. So there's nothing wrong with the coastal road. The coastal road makes more sense on an economic level because you're not going to the hinterland. So you're just going to drive on that coast. And so if you go to every other nation that's got a coastline, there's always a coastal road. You go to California, you go to Florida, there's always a coastal road. The problem in Nigeria is how are we funding that coastal road? We said we're going to fund it through a PPP, something like that, but we're borrowing the money for that road. All the stuff that's in Nigeria is going to Deutsche Bank and borrowed money. We borrowed on that funds as well. We are starting from Lagos to build that road. Remember, we have an existing east to west road that is also a quote unquote coastal road that is supposed to connect the east to the west. That road, is it completed? No. On that good luck, Jonathan, we're going to have the east to west railway. It was the largest project ever given to a Chinese company. Has it been completed? No. Now we're doing the coastal road from the east to west. Lagos side has been built. It's beautiful. You can see how it's adding to the GDP of Lagos already. If we can complete this road from the east to the west, it will be beautiful. But it's not going to happen because when you go to the coast of Nigeria, it's swamp. And those swamp mean we have to build not a coastal road, but a coastal bridge. Once you cross this Lagos and Ogun axis, that is the quote unquote easy part. Everything else is swamp from that Ogun all the way to Calabar. So we're going to build a coastal bridge. Where's the money for that? So when you say this, of course, people are going to say, hey, you're a hater and all. So it goes back to what they are saying. What was the best use? If we had a trillion naira, what was the best use for that 1 trillion? Was it to build in one project? Because the coastal road is the largest single infrastructure project in the history of Nigeria. Should we have put a 1 trillion naira, which is PPPO, into that coastal road, or should we have taken that 1 trillion, fixed the east to west road, fixed the railways, even fixed power? Like I said, in economics, the cost of something is the cost of what has been forgone. If we put money in the coastal road, you have forgone power, you have forgone railways. It doesn't mean coastal road is bad. It just means you have forgone it. So the question back to you, that's what they're asking you, doctor, is that was it the best use of a trillion? But is that 1 trillion going to improve HDI? Of course it will. If you are sick, you go on that coastal road, you can get to a hospital. If you have food, you can export your palm oil from Abia to the Lagos ports on the coastal road. So the coastal road is very important and it will help HDI, it will help GDP. The issue is, was it the best use of nearly 2 trillion? That's really the question that Doc will have to ask herself. Doc, I'll be clear on that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Fantastic, Doc. Thanks. Hang around. If you have a second question, yeah. Let's get see you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. See you. Hey, how you doing? See you. See, you got an echo. See you. You got an echo. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is it better?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, I come to this.
Yeah, your echo is back. See, you gotta fix that echo. Fix that echo for me, please. Do you mind? Let me just go to Francis. Fix that echo real quick. I'll come back to you. All right, Sir Francis. Let's get Sir Francis. Francis, please go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
How you doing, sir?
Good evening. I trust you are faring fine. Right. So the issue of it's really appalling to see that fuel is even I even saw today that the gas to fill a gas is about 2,400 naira now. Last week I know I filled for about 1,800, 1,900 ish. And saying that fuel is not more expensive, as it were.
Yeah.
Right. It's not more expensive. Gas is rather not more expensive than fuel. The issue is in all of these whole dichotomy, when people cannot afford basic necessities, of which is not the core delivery of the economic promise. If we're not saying that life is bearable, at least basic things, we don't have to, go through various stress to just meet basic necessities.
Yeah.
Then it then begins to wonder of what use all of these things. I've never talked about insecurity, as it were, and all of those things. And I believe that if Nigeria can handle power issue, if power can be handled in Nigeria, of which insecurity is on that thing now, if power can be handled, at least half of our problem will literally be solved.
I think
industries
so.
will not bring on.
I think
because
so.
many industries are packing up. People are packing up.
Yeah.
SMEs, things are closing up.
I think
the amount it takes for you to fuel, you want to fuel your gen, you fuel your gen in the workplace and at home, even if you have the solar, as it were, you still have to be able to charge. It's rainy season already, so I'll be able to charge your battery. So if power is settled, I feel that all of these energies, if we really channel it into, we're not even looking at the cost. The cost of living is off the roof. So if power is handled, and the cost of, we can't say we are oil producing country, a nation rather, and we cannot, afford fuel. It's still something I'm trying to.
Makes no sense. Yeah, you're right.
So if power is handled, let economic policies. You cannot say that economic policy for 3 years we are not seeing it. Things are getting more expensive, more unbearable. Families are, for me personally, my house now. We're talking about this gas issue. The 12 kg, like we feel like 2 times in a month because we are about close to 8, in the house and everything. You feel that. Imagine 20 is now 28,000 or 24,000, or let's say 20,000 for 40,000 in a month, just for only gas alone. We don't talk about fuel. We don't talk about that. So we want to see these policies. It should be reflective.
You're correct.
It should be reflective of the day-to-day activity. So if power is settled, it will help a lot in everything we're doing. So if that is not settled, fuel is there, the Naira is doing his own, I feel if the government is really in for the people, they should have a way to make it easy. So if that's not it,
Sir Francis, I get you. I think your sentiments are shared by a lot of people in the country. I think look at what if I can give you an analogy, right? When you see a mass casualty event, let's say there was an accident and then the ambulances come to the accident. Doctors have what's called a triage. So the doctors they'll create a triage, right? They'll say, let's see who will help first. So if they see you, maybe you broke your arm, but you can still breathe in, they keep you aside. Is your arm bad? Yes. Is it hurting you? Yes. But they keep you aside. Then they see someone that is not breathing. Is going to die in the next second. They help that person immediately. They see somebody else that the person has burns on their back. They are in pain, but they are breathing. They are talking. They are walking. They leave them aside. They focus first of all on the folks that are at risk of dying before they then go and look at the ones that are even in pain. Your arm is pain is hurting you. You have burns on your skin, but they don't go to you first. They go after specific folks. Why I'm bringing this up is like if you look at Nigeria look at any year, look at 99, look at 2014, look at 2023. When you come in as a president, you have to do a triage. What should I do today? Every sector needs help. Tourism needs help. But tourism is not, if we don't have tourism in Nigeria, will we die? No. But tourism is a very, very important part of the Nigerian economy. That's why we have Afrobeat, right? But are you not going to say I'm going to make tourism number one in my government? Nobody does that. So it's the reverse case. Yeah. You have to say, what can I do that if I spend 1 naira and the private sector spends 1 naira, we have 11, not 2, 11. And that's why I think in a way the president sort of dropped the ball on that. There are things he should have done immediately that would have generated consumption, that would have generated jobs. And then once those are going, you then come back and say, I want to do a coastal road. So people are eating, then they are seeing coastal road, or you are employing people to do a coastal road. But when you go all in and you take 1 trillion to do the coastal road, you've taken money from somewhere to do it. So I'm very, very careful. I'm not critiquing the coastal road. I'm just saying the triage situation is what we should have applied in the country and said, what should we invest Naira today that would create consumption, will create jobs, will create what they call in economics, capital, the multiplier effect, capitalistic effect, catalytic effect. That's what we need to do. If we don't do that, then we're just going to be, skipping around the issues, and we have small wins here, but small wins don't transform Nigeria. We are a country of 200 million people, and you need very, very big things. Ghana can import 1 bag or 1 ship of rice and they're okay. Nigeria can't. We have to just import, but also have to make rice in the country. So this where, Sir Francis, I agree with you. We have to have asked ourselves, what was important first? You've said power. Ask any Nigerian. The number one thing to tell you is insecurity. They might tell you it's food. They will come to power next. And like I said, as an economist, if you talk about economics, right, power is a key catalyst in Nigeria. If we get power, our GDP will double or even triple. Just having power alone, GDP will double. So if you come in and you say people are unemployed, what should you do? Should you take money and give them as cash and say we're giving households 75 naira every month? Or should you take that money and ensure those households have power? What should you have done? That's where I think they're missing the drop in the ball in the country.
Yeah. You're right. You're right, Chief. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Let's get see you. You're back. Thanks for having back. See you. Appreciate you.
Yes. Is it better now?
Yes, sir. A lot better.
Okay. So I want to come to this discussion in a very non-partisan way. I don't really like to talk about politics in a certain way. So in a way that, because I think it obfuscates a lot of things. So I think rather what Nigeria think is recovery, and what Nigeria think in quotes is doing well, is we're just coming out of the disaster that was Buhari's final year in office. In fact, I believe, and I've told people that if there was hypothetically a third term, I think we would have had a 1929 style economic depression, with the stupid things he did with overvaluation of the currency and deficit monetization. But the reforms have removed a lot of those bad economic policies. So, but today, what the country is, in my opinion, is that I think we have become a carry trade environment, and I'll get to that. I know last time we spoke, you we went back and forth about it, but I do generally believe that we are a carry trade environment. In this administration, we've seen the poverty rate go, up to 61%. The sectors that I think would have added some sort of level of growth, which is, I think, in my opinion, would have been agriculture. Yes, it still contributes 21%, but it still contributes 21% to GDP, but it's still contracting. Manufacturing is dead at 6%, at 3%. Now I don't see any sign of that coming with other things in mind. So in terms of growth, again, another thing I want to also mention is that I have a very contrarian view to GDP growth. I don't like when a lot of Nigerians come to me, or a lot of people come to me and say, oh, the economy is doing well. It's doing well. Look at GDP. Look at the booming equity market. That is not the right way. Yes, in economics, if you want to measure a country's growth, you use GDP. If you want to measure, in the other sense, people use equity markets. But today, I don't really believe that these are the standard of the measures, the barometers to measure how this country is going. In my opinion, I think it's unemployment. I also think it's the standard of living. And those two metrics are way below, are very down. I think the real economy is also contracting as well. We can't produce because of insecurity. Our industrial policy is a mess. Even with the imports, right? I'm a big fan of trade protectionism, but only in a way that doesn't derail an economy. Such as if we are to say, okay, let's put a tariff on certain goods, it would put inflation above 40%. And then I'm asking myself another question: are these reforms, if they work, are they actually a lagging indicator? Because it's been 3 years now. That's the question I'm asking. I want to answer at the end, Kalu. So if the reforms are actually working, are they a lagging indicator? Or is it that these things take time to show in the numbers? Or have they just been benefiting the FBI, the carry trade investors that are coming here with hot money?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the solutions, I think, I personally believe that interest rates should be much lower. You cannot industrialize an economy with very tight financial conditions. I think as time goes on, we need to see interest rates go down hundreds of basis points. And then look at how the machine works in terms of what you're talking about Nigeria's debt. Look, Ray Dalio talked about something called the economic machine. So he talks about three things that drive an economy: productivity growth, borrowing money, which is leverage, and population. Like you said, debt is not a bad thing, but if you allow debt to rise faster than incomes, which you definitely have in this country, it's going to be a big problem. What matters in the long run is productivity growth, because what productivity growth means that you are putting people in more jobs, you're creating jobs, you're creating an infrastructure, you're creating a system whereby we can rely less on borrowing money, right? That's how you put it. And as you can see, this has also shown in the latest, the capital quotation figures. I think it was a drop quarter by quarter of 66% fall in FDI. In those ranges. And so why is that? And I ask myself again, if these reforms are so good and everybody's talking about it, everybody's really mad about it, why don't investors want to commit long-term capital? If these reforms are so good, that's my question.
Yeah, so, I mean, you said a lot, so I want us to just I think you hit the nail on the head on when you say that the reforms are coming out of the hole that Buhari dug us into. I think people forget that from 1999 till 2014, Nigeria pursued a very liberal, conservative economic policy where we had the economy was private sector driven. From under Buhari, we went back to state control. We set prices, we set price of dollar, we set price of fuel. That's what Tinubu is coming out of. He's going back to where Goodluck and Obasanjo and Yar'Adua was. Tinubu hasn't done anything new. Where Tinubu is today is where Goodluck was in 2014. So he has simply, like you said, he has simply gone back. He has simply removed what Buhari was doing, which was to try to control the economy by saying the dollar will be this price, but I want you guys to go and export. How can you lock in dollar price and ask people to export? Doesn't make any sense. So Tinubu has said, okay, we have to allow the economy to grow, and we can't grow the economy if we are holding dollar prices and we're also taking all our revenues to subsidize PMS. So he removed two of Buhari's biggest economic planks, which was the dollar peg and the fuel subsidy. He did that, so the macro, the top line has improved. The macro, the GDP, all that has improved. But when you come to the micro, where the people are, the cost of food has gone up. The cost of inflation is still up. Even though it is the rate of change has reduced, it's still going up by 15%. There's no disinflation. We are still having inflation, but at 15%. The cost of transportation, unemployment, insecurity, all that has gotten worse for Nigerians. And that's where we are to the then question, oh, why do I care about GDP and the stock market? If the cost of everything I see has gone up and down. That's where we are. And that's why I go back to the point I made with Francis, that when you have an economy, you've got to go and fix things quickly and where people will touch and feel it. Look at the Americans. They have a very, very sophisticated economy. But whenever they have issues, what they do, stimulus checks, right? They do stimulus checks. As Chinese guys, stimulus checks. Europe, stimulus checks. Why? Because in the end, even though GDP is growing, you have to go and address the human needs of people. So again, to say the government will say GDP is growing, our GDP is 50 billion in the CBN. How does 50 billion in the CBN affect Mama BC selling rice? If you can't connect those two, then you are talking to yourself. You're talking to yourself. A few days ago, there was a guy, Showore. I don't know if you heard about Showore's proposal to pay 500,000 naira. You heard about that, right? See,
I think so. I have to check.
And I did some tweets. So Showore wants to pay 500,000 naira a month as minimum wage. And I was tweeting this, and I was saying that, listen, I know numbers, and I know on the balance sheet what Showore is saying doesn't make any sense. But in reality, people would follow Showore's 500K before they will follow GDP. Because if you give somebody 500,000 naira promise, it makes more sense to him than telling him GDP has increased, which will boost productivity, which will boost consumption. So we are quoting what the government is, their communication team is trying to use macroeconomic indicators to speak to the populace. You don't say that now. What does Trump say? Drill, baby, drill. No tax on tips. Do you hear him saying GDP is up and all that? You have to bring the language down and to show how the GDP going up affects you as an individual walking on the streets in Nigeria. That's what they haven't done. They haven't gone from macro. Look at all their Twitter. They tweet out. They will tell you GDP is up, foreign exchange is up, trade is up. They will tell you Qatar is coming to Nigeria to do swap. Well, okay, but has the price of food gone up or down? Has the cost of Panadol or having a child in Nigeria, has it gone up or down? Has the cost of buying Bata shoes gone up or down? And if you can't answer that, people then say, hey, I don't know what you're talking. So there's a gap of communication and a relative wall hitting Nigerians. Every day, people are paying more for basic things every day, every single day. And you can't wash that away by saying GDP is up. So you're completely right on that. Then when you talk about you're going to ask me a question on, I said we're going to ask on the carry trade, right?
I was going to ask you, no. I was going to ask you. So do you think that that the reforms, then, if the reforms are working in the macro,
yeah,
do you think that? But do you believe that because it's not showing up in the real economy, do you think it's a lagging indicator that we're going to see?
No,
we're going to see
no
in the long run.
No, they haven't connected it. They fixed the macro, but the macro was they fixed the macro, right? So let me give you an example. They've said there was a dollar peg. The dollar peg was affecting the whole economy. You can't grow, you can't do anything with a dollar peg. So they removed dollar peg. They've removed dollar peg. That's why you see all this FDI, FPI coming to Nigeria. Okay, you have to then communicate what you have done with removal of dollar peg to how the cost of data, how the cost of rice is in Nigeria. They haven't done that because they can't do it. What I mean is that they haven't done the hard work of saying There is no dollar peg. Let's now go in and incentivize exports, which would then bring in capital to Nigeria, which would then boost the consumption of Nigerians. They haven't done that part of the work yet. They are still at, oh, we've removed peg, we remove subsidy. Okay, you remove subsidy, prices went up. What else did you do? Nothing. There are no buses that replace the cheap PMS subsidy bus that were around. You don't have that. Air travel is out of the world. Bus is expensive. Train goes up, goes down, sometimes it's derailed and all that. And that's where they are missing the communication. They are saying, look at what we did. We've done, it's like, give a good example. Like I always use Arsenal in my examples. Arsenal will say, we built a new stadium, but we haven't won any Champions League medals. We haven't won. Imagine if Arsenal had not won anything. Maybe you haven't won Champions League, they didn't won Europe, they haven't won nothing. But they say, we built a new stadium, we're getting tons of revenues. Fans are going to say, okay, you've have all these revenues. Who have you bought? Who have you employed? What trophies have you won? That's where Nigeria is. Nigeria is saying we built a brand new stadium. We have the best TV cast. We have the best jersey. We have the best stands. But the fans are saying, guy, we need trophies. Nigerians are saying we need cheap food. We need power. And you're saying if you remove the fuel subsidy, you depict the Naira. Bring it home. That's what Nigerians are saying. Bring it home. You are still at the macro. I hope it makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Let's get my good friend Cleo. Cleo.
Hello.
How you doing,
Hello,
Cleo?
Kalu.
Yeah, hi. What's up?
Yeah, I'm fine. Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay. So I heard you and the previous person actually echoes a lot of my sentiment. I think you know a lot of my sentiment about the so-called reforms that the Tinubu administration is doing. You know, I am one of those people that is vehemently critical of it, and I don't necessarily like calling it reforms. I see it more in the term of price adjustment / structural adjustment. That's what I would more call it than reforms. I think the whole mantra of reforms is sort of like a clever marketing way of trying to sound like, oh, they have really done things that have structurally changed the economy, when in many ways it really hasn't. Some of them were important, especially, which I keep on saying, especially the devaluation of the Naira. I think it was clear that the country could not, so the country didn't have enough forex for imports past, I think, 4 or 5 months. So that, but then having the double whammy of increasing energy prices was where I was having serious issues with, because it was like a situation of you come out of your house and let's say it's raining and then rain starts pouring on you, you're wet. You then go out and then a car, something that's very, very unavoidable, that's very avoidable, a car running at full speed in a place of 10 kilometers per hour splashes water on you. So making an already bad situation exceedingly worse. And there was no, say things like support to try to cushion the effect. In fact, I'm not even sure they could have really cushioned the effect if they did both together, or as they did both together. Because the cost of cushioning the effect would have run into the trillions of naira. Now, so based on this your topic about the Tinubu deliver on economic promises, I would say largely I think that the high inflation under his government was something I expected. I read his manifesto. I know most Nigerians and probably most people on this space don't read politicians' manifesto. I read his manifesto. It was an inflationary manifesto. It was spend this, spend that, spend this, spend that. The only part of his manifesto to me that made sense, that was the best part of all the major candidates, was the education part. So the idea when people are now talking about the inflationary effect, it had to be inflationary. somebody talking about how they're going to spend money on, they'll spend money on more on agricultural programs and all of that. Yes, so yes, I agree that we should invest and we should try to improve our productivity going forward. But some of the policies that both the Buhari administration and unfortunately the Tinubu administration has also inherited is this idea of everything agriculture. The truth is this: for Nigeria to have a more stable and a more liquid foreign exchange market and a more stable foreign exchange market, we need to diversify our exports. And one of the best ways of diversifying our exports to ensure that our prices proof is by investing in manufacturing, especially going up the value chain in the manufacturing.
I'm not hearing you again, Kilo. I think you've dropped off. Kilo, if you can hear me, I'm not hearing you again. For some Francis, can you hear him?
No, I can't. I can't hear him. I can't.
Yeah. I think he dropped off. Yeah.
Yeah. Having network issues also.
Yeah. Kilo, just hop back in. We'll let you in. Let's get D. D. Hop in D real quick. D, how you doing?
Hi. Good evening, Kalu. I'm well, thank you. Hope you're okay.
Doing very well. Thanks for helping. I mean, we're hearing what we're talking about. We're looking at the Renewed Hope Manifesto, looking at what has been promised, what has been delivered, some good things, some things that are still in work in progress, and some outright failures. What's your take, man?
So yeah, I'll make a point and I have a question. So I mean, I'm not too close to the Nigerian economy. I mostly listen to these spaces to gain insight into the economy. But I mean, from what I have observed from Tinubu, I think he has done mostly a good job. I think unifying the exchange rate was the right thing to do. I think removing the fuel subsidy was the right thing to do. I think he could have done it in ways that had less damage and impact to the ordinary person. But I guess those kind of interventions also come at a cost. So, I mean, I don't know what his mindset was there, but I think his instincts were broadly correct to me. I think he was starting from a very difficult starting point, and I think unfortunately reforms of those kind are always going to come with, some degree of economic pain. And I think I actually saw a presentation for someone, I can't remember where it was, but they were basically making the argument that had Tinubu not made those interventions, the Nigerian economy would be in a much worse place. So I think people are complaining about the economy not being improved, but I think there's maybe not a lot of consideration for where Nigeria would be had those interventions not happened. So yeah, I think broadly speaking, I'm positive on Tinubu's tenure so far. But yeah, maybe the government could have been more ambitious in supporting economic growth. I had a couple of questions, Kalu, if you wouldn't mind indulging me.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question I have is, I spend a lot of time reading about unemployment, salaries, living conditions in Nigeria, but the data is really unreliable. I don't really know that I can form a good picture of what the ordinary Nigerian experience is. I think another problem that compounds the issue is that people by nature are inclined to complain. So, I mean, even in the UK, one of the wealthiest nations in the world, people complain about their living standards not being what they want it to be. So, I mean, one of the things I wanted to gain is, how does someone gain an objective? Because, I mean, we say, people are not feeling the benefits. How does one gain an objective perspective, a data-driven perspective of the living conditions of the average Nigerian? Because one of the things I'm querying in my mind is, okay, if people are so upset, why is there not civil unrest? People seem to be broadly passive. I don't know the right terms, but I mean, Nigeria seems to be broadly accepting of where it is. That's my first question. So how does one gain an accurate understanding of where the country is in terms of the average living person's condition?
I mean, let me give you one that will resonate with you. Look at Jackpa. I don't know where you live, but in the 2012 to 2014, there was a reverse jackpot. A lot of Nigerians that were abroad that were coming back to Nigeria. Look at the Minister of Finance back then was working the World Bank. She came to Nigeria. The Minister of Foreign Affairs was working abroad. He came back to Nigeria. Lots of folks, came back to Nigeria from abroad. Imagine you leaving a dollar or a pound economy to come and earn Naira. That was a lot of confidence in where the economy was going to. Look at the foreign Nigerian bonds were in the JP Morgan bond index. So these are like antidotes where to tell you that where the Nigerians and the foreigners felt the country was going to. There was a famous CNN poll where they said Nigeria was going to be among one of the top 3 in the whole world in terms of growth. Number 1 was Qatar, but Qatar is oil. But this is a broad Nigeria with agriculture that Akinwumi Additional was doing, with trade that Aganga was doing, and all that. We had all the motor companies come to Nigeria to set up in Nigeria because we passed the new CKD policy in Nigeria for autos and cars. We had food. We had tons of investments in food in Nigeria. We had the cassava bread. We had all this stuff that was going on. So just by looking at the jackpot trade, number of flights going in and coming in, you could see that there was a bit of confidence. And that's the word, confidence, that Nigerians had about Nigeria and were coming back. What do we have today? It's the reverse. Everyone is trying to leave. There was a poll done by an app, on these trading apps in Nigeria, and they asked Nigerian youths, what was your number one plan or goal in the next 10 years? The number one goal was to jackpot. Not to make money, not to invest money in the stock market, was to leave Nigeria. That's their number one goal. And if you see there was a video skit where the French ambassador was having a session with Nigerians. And she was asking them, what is jackpot? She knows what jackpot was, but she was trying to hear them out. You could say everybody was saying, no. So that's your way of just, without looking at the economy, just look at the sense of Nigerian youth. Everybody wants to leave. Everybody wants to leave. And that just tells you, if the country is doing so well, if GDP is growing so much, if the macro is growing so much, why would people want to leave? People have always left, but everybody wants to leave. I did a study once. I looked at all my friends, all of them that I was in personal life with. To a man, it's either their families have left Nigeria, or they have left Nigeria, or have a foreign passport. All of them. Everybody. It wasn't like that when I was like maybe 15 years ago. But almost every person that is of means in Nigeria has a foreign passport, or his family is abroad, or his kids are abroad, or whatever. And this is the largest economy in Africa. So things are not. I mean, I was in Nigeria. I went to the market. I didn't go to the mall. I went to the market, the Mile 12, Jota, and the one in K2. And I sat there for a day. And I was with people, and you see people, you hear stories. Things are not easy. And that's why when I say spend $1 trillion, Nigeria is not a hard place to govern. When you say people are calm, Nigeria is not a very, very hard place to govern. Nigerians don't want a lot. You look at what happens in Kenya. They passed the tax law in Kenya. Kenyans went to the streets, blew up everything, and they sort of reversed the tax law. You saw even when they had the war in Iran, they increased diesel price. They started to make noise, they reduced diesel price. But Nigeria is a very, very easy place to govern. Nigerians don't want a lot. They just give them the basics, they are okay with it, right? So it's a good and a bad thing, because if you're a bad leader in Nigeria, you can get away with everything. This same country that we're saying that the present president is the only person that can save Nigeria. They said the same thing for Abacha, for Babangida, for IBB, for OBJ, for Umar Yar'Adua, for Goodluck. Once you are in power, you become everything now in Nigeria is named after Tinubu. There's Tinubu Road, there's Tinubu Hospital, there's Tinubu Barracks, there's Tinubu Car, there's Tinubu Hospital, everything. Once he goes, the next president will rename everything after them again. So that's a unique breed. But to go back to your question, the economy is not really working at the micro level. What Tinubu has done has been very, very commendable to fix the macro, but we can't eat macro. We don't eat macro, we eat micro. Micro is the price of food at Mama BC. Macro is inflation. You can't eat inflation. You eat rice and mabisi. And I think that's what the dichotomy is between what is the reality on ground and the macro. Both are correct. Inflation has come down, but mabisi split of rice is still selling for 2,000 naira. And you have to marry both of them, really, D. Hope that makes sense, D.
Yeah, that's a really insightful response. It's given me food for thought. Thank you for that. My second question to conclude is, what is your, and I know this question is maybe a lot more difficult to ask, it's maybe staring into a crystal ball, but what is the medium to long-term prospects for Nigeria in terms of the natural direction of Nigeria? So I understand that obviously a lot of it depends on government policy, but I mean, there's certain fundamentals about Nigeria in terms of like having a young demographic, a lot of Europe and places like Japan. I mean, population collapse is a big concern around the world.
Yeah.
So, are you optimistic about Nigeria in the medium to long term, or do you feel like it's still up in the air whether Nigeria can economically develop as a nation?
I just think that the biggest thing that gives me confidence in Nigeria today is there's just a Dangote refinery. I think it's not just a refinery, but that he did it. So many people are now going to be like, okay, I can actually do it too. Dangote refinery is 20 billion. You can't find 20 billion investments. You can't count them on your hand across the world. You can't. 20 billion single investments on your hand. You cannot. But he did it in Africa. And so there's a lot of confidence that, number one, he has fixed the balance sheet. This is real. Dangote single-handedly has fixed the balance sheet of Nigeria. So a prudent president today can do things that a Buhari, a Goodluck, a Obasanjo could not do because they have Dangote refinery. So if you are skilled in how to plan out a vision 2050, you have a good place to start to build on. From using the Dangote, the BUAs, and all those free trade zone kind of things to then build out of. You have a good place to do. Look at where I think where that is missing when you say, am I confident? Nigeria has a very, very young population and very, very entrepreneurial population. Nigeria's one place where all the growth sectors that have happened in Nigeria in the last 25 years have been created outside the government. Nollywood, largest employer of labor outside the government, largest employer of labor was created by the private sector, no government input. Fintech, massive. All the stuff we're doing in Nigeria created outside the government. Afrobeat, tourism is all over the world, created outside the government. So this is a country where we just spit out these things out. Imagine if Nollywood was in Rwanda or Afrobeat was in Ghana. Imagine what they have done to it. If Dangote refinery was in Rwanda, the Rwandan premium on their bonds, on their equities would have been ×5. Because people just naturally say, oh, Rwanda is going to take that revenue and build roads and build rockets and build whatever. But in Nigeria, people are still not sure that this is even with Dangote refinery, the largest single train refinery in the whole of maybe in Africa, clearly, maybe in the sub-Saharan world, that these people might still mess this up. We saw the same Dangote refinery being called illegal and producing substandard products in the same country. We saw it, didn't we see it? Can you imagine any other country calling a $20 billion project as inferior? Any other country on earth? So that's the problem with Nigeria, that we can burn our house because we want to kill a cockroach. And it's terrifying. So the people of Nigeria are ready. The youth are ready. They are very innovative. Nigeria speaks English. We are educated. I just saw one innovation hub in Kwara. I've never seen it before. It's just there in Kwara. In that Kwara hub, you can find your next Elon Musk there, just sitting there on his laptop. So imagine a country will come out and say, okay, for all youth in Nigeria, we're going to give a contract to HP. If you are a youth, go and collect free laptop. I will give you 5,000 naira for that internet. How much would it cost? If you give every youth age 15 to 20 a free laptop plus Starlink subscription, how much will it cost? Will it cost 1 trillion? Which will give you a better return on capital? That laptop or a road, just saying, which will be a better return on capital? You know the answer. But we're not doing these things. So it's a difficult thing indeed that we have everything to make Nigeria the greatest nation on earth. I'm not talking of in Africa. We can compete in Nigeria with Iran, with US, with the EU, but we are not. We are chasing rice, rice. So the paper looks good, but we need what Nigeria needs is a leader that will come and say, okay, let's get this done. We don't have that yet, in my view. I think we have people that are here because we want to tick a box. I achieved this, I achieved that. We need a guy that will come and say, let's get this done. Let's just get this done. And you see wonders. Again, go back to what I'm telling you. Nollywood, fintech, what's the last one I called? Were all created, Afrobeat, all created without the direct planning and participation of the Nigerian government. Go and pick up Vision 2010. You won't see Nollywood, you won't see fintech, you won't see Afrobeat in that because we didn't plan. That's outside the core. And there's still more coming. There's still more coming. That if you're able to sit down and say, how can we enhance the youth of the country? This country will blow up. Jackpot, people will come back. Who wants to live abroad? People will come back. But now a kid today wakes up, there is no prospect for getting a job or to marry or to buy a house. When I was in Nigeria, when I got my first job, there was a pathway for me to buy a car, to buy a house in Nigeria from Naira. I didn't have to invest abroad. I could buy a car and buy a house as a young man in Nigeria. Today, there is no pathway, none, for a young man, and I'm talking about a manager in a bank, to go and buy a brand new car or a brand new house in the country. This is bank. Not talking of people that are working, maybe more. Bank. Where's it? Show me the pathway. So if you hear all this, is troubling. The country is great. Nigeria is great. We just need to tie in the greatness with leadership. I can just tie in a few things and then we'll just move on. We should be talking about power at 6,000 megawatts. A whole Nigeria. How much does Gatwick Power produce? What was the airport in Gatwick? How many megawatts does the airport produce? The whole of Nigeria, 6,000 megawatts. Not good enough. I don't want to attack anybody, but it's not good enough. I don't blame the current guy. I mean, he took over in 2023, but we have to move faster. We have to move faster and just think more about the people. It's not all about politics. We have to move faster and create wealth for the young people. Otherwise, if this ship doesn't sail, we're in trouble. D, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Let's get Tony. Tony Dickbear.
Thanks, Kalu.
Hey, D, anytime, man. Thank you. I hope we've given you more insight on Nigerians going on. Yeah. Tony, how you doing, Tony?
I'm doing well. Greetings, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, sir.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so let me begin by saying the cost of tomato for the poor is the same price for the rich. So the question I want to ask now is quite similar to what Dee just asked. I'm based in Nigeria. I run a business. I've been running this business for a while now. And in the past 4 years, it's been different experiences. But what I want to talk about is the President Tinubu's policies. Now, they said the policies are necessary for obvious reasons. Removal of subsidy from petrol, from power, and bringing in different tax reforms and all of that.
Yeah.
Good and fine. If you come on Twitter, there are a lot of people always talking about the fact that our GDP has improved by so percentage. This has improved by so percentage. Good and fine. Now the question I want to ask is, Nigeria has a large population of people who are poor and who are struggling. And in reality, just like you said Nigerians don't really demand much. I believe that Nigerians will go out there if we're more united, especially Nigerian youths. If we're more united, I'm sure we'll have a lot of marches on the streets. But disunity is one of the issues. Now my question is like, is there nothing at all that can be done to sort of cushion the effects for the common Nigerians?
Yeah.
Because there's something happening now. Sorry, please. For this year, the cost of tomatoes has jumped to the highest I've ever heard of it in my life. I've never seen it before, where a basket of tomatoes is selling at 150,000 naira. A basket of tomatoes. And tomatoes is the vegetable that we consume the most in Nigeria. A basket today is selling at, I don't know about other states, but on those states where I am, is selling at 150,000 naira and 160,000 naira. And we are all expected to buy it like that, with no form of any stimulus or palliative or whatever from anywhere.
Yeah.
No increase in salaries, nothing. So there's nothing that the government can do, maybe state-wise, because whenever we cry, Tinubu's people say Tinubu has increased allocation for governors. Some other people say they are giving money to local government. I don't know if that has happened.
Yeah, I mean,
but at the end of the day, it's still the same cry every day, no improvement. We are all just struggling to pay, to buy this food, to enter transportation, gas. In fact, cooking gas too has hit an all-time high too.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, is there nothing the government can do for the people to sort of reduce this level of pain that we've not experienced before?
Let me try to address your question with saying two things, right? When you talk about Nigerians, we don't really come out and all that. It's because, for a very, very long time, Nigerians did not believe that the government did not believe that the government can create opportunities for them. Nigerians are used to creating opportunities for themselves. That's where I'll start from. But that's a recent phenomenon. In the 1970s, people looked to the government, and the government provided roads, provided housing, provided healthcare, provided education. From the first republic, that was during Shehu Shagari, something happened with the people, and people sort of like tuned off the government. The military came in, did some more work. From 1999, people tuned off again. People didn't really trust politics, and we sort of trotted again. Now I feel that people are not trusting politics again. I think if you ask me my issue, why I think what's going on is that people are looking only at the federal government of Nigeria. No one's looking at their local government. No one's looking at their states, especially local governments. If in America, right, they can recall a governor, they can recall a House member. And if the president is in Abuja, and the president says he wants to remove fuel subsidy, and the House members and the senators know that if they vote for a policy that's going to cause pain of their people back at home, they won't vote for it. But in Nigeria, the House members and the senators do not fear their constituents. Whatever the president says, they vote for it. So what's going on is that there is no feedback loop for the president. For him, he wants to borrow 1 trillion. He will tell Akpabio to borrow 1 trillion. Akpabio will borrow 1 trillion. He will sign it off. There's no feedback loop for him. But look at America. Trump wants to do something. He has to go to the House. They will say, oh, Senator Massey is not voting for him. So he's constantly adjusting the bill. How can we make this bill so that it will appeal to this senator or to that House district? We don't do that in Nigeria. We abandon the local government space. We abandon the state space. We all face the federal. So the local government chairman, do you know your local? So you don't have to answer, but do you know your local government chairman's name? I doubt if you know it, but you don't have to answer. How many people know their local government chairman's name, and what have we demanded of that local guy? If we put pressure on local government chairman, on the House people, on the senators, they won't vote nonsense when they get to Abuja. You won't vote to remove subsidy without palliatives, which is what they did. They just came, took fuel from where it was to 300%, and said, okay, now go and do CNG gas, go and buy gas. So that's one thing I believe is going on, Tony. things are bad. And like you said, tomato is expensive, everything's expensive, rent is expensive. And we can try to fix it if the government can work with the state and local government areas to say, instead of giving people rice, let's give people real cost savings. Why couldn't they say for the whole year, no Nigerian should pay VAT? Or for a whole year, customs should use 100 Naira as its import duty. Sorry, use $1 to 100 Naira as your import duty exchange rate. You could have done it. You don't have to pass it. It can happen in 24 hours. We've removed subsidy, but for the next 1 year, to sort of allow Nigerians to slowly acclimatize, we're going to use $1 to 100 Naira exchange rate, which means whatever you import to Nigeria, you pay less. That's a price increase that's an income increase in Nigerians. Same with food, but we didn't do all that because the Senate, the House, the local government, the states do not give pushback to the executive. That's what's going on, Tony. When we start to focus more, because you can get those guys easier. When they pass stupid bills, deal with them back at home, vote them out. When you do it for 2 cycles, everyone starts to take dressing to say, okay, what can I do? I don't want to be voted out. Like what happens in the US. Look at London. They just had an election a few days ago in London. Labour, wipe out. So Labour today is looking at, we are working on shells. Let's not pass any nonsense bill. And that's how a democracy is supposed to work. But if you have a democracy where the president does not care because he knows the House and Senate is going to vote whatever he wants, then you're never going to progress, Tony. That's my take. I might be wrong, but that's what I feel.
Okay, then there's one more thing. When you were speaking earlier, you talked about the fact that most Nigerians are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a business. I've never taken a job before.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I kind of regret it because of recent experiences.
Yeah.
Now, I remember under Jonathan we had the WIN initiative, which a lot of people benefited, but the impact wasn't far-reaching like that.
Yeah.
And then I remember under the Buhari's government, there was this national loan that they were giving all over the place. Well, my business actually benefited from that in my state. And of course, I mean, it was good at the time, right? But now what I'm trying to say is we are so many that have built businesses. And recently, many of us have had to abandon our businesses to go and look for jobs to survive or maybe to leave Nigeria. Most of the people that we started businesses with I started business with in Akure here, as I speak to you. And in the last 4 years, like 50% first relocated to Lagos. They left from those states, they moved to Lagos. A lot of those guys that moved to Lagos, and I speak to you, they've left Nigeria.
Yeah, I mean, so what's your question?
So my question is around funding for businesses. Since businesses employ people the most, why is it difficult for us to have a funding system in Nigeria where, I mean, at least we can access some certain amounts of money without too much hassle?
Do you know how these things work? Let me just try to give you a technical answer, right? The way it works, there's something called MPR. Do you hear CBN talking about MPR, monetary policy rate? Have you heard them talking about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that monetary policy rate, right, is what the Central Bank of Nigeria, how it lends to the banks. So what makes the MPR go up and down is inflation. If there's high inflation, the CBN wants to fight inflation, they increase that MPR so that money becomes expensive. You see where I'm going to? So if there's inflation, they make MPR high so that banks don't lend you money. If they want to grow the economy, they reduce MPR, so banks lend you money, but you get inflation. So in economics, there's always plus and minus. If they give you cheap money, there will be inflation. If they make money expensive, there is no inflation, but you don't grow. So there is the growth argument versus inflation argument. Right now, the Central Bank of Nigeria is focused on inflation, not growth. If you notice, the past CBN governor, Emefiele, was doing growth. That's why you saw him giving money to Dangote. You saw him giving money to rice. You saw him giving money to this. But there was inflation. So you have to choose which one you want. Do you want inflation to go down and then growth will go down? You see what I'm saying? Or do you want inflation to go up and then growth will go up? For me, I think we should focus on growth. For me, I'm not saying what Stephen is doing is wrong. I'm saying in the end, if you have inflation at 2% and Nigerians don't have work and are going to do criminality and kidnapping, what have you achieved? So we have to focus on growth. If it means there's inflation, yes, there will be inflation, but let people have jobs, let people have something to eat, take away the criminality, give people a sense of going out and coming in. Then you can then say, okay, after 2 or 3 years, when people are eating food, people have a job, start addressing inflation. And it's a tough thing to say that your Naira will be losing value, but you have a job. But you have to do two of them at the same time. You can't just focus on saying we're going to fight inflation and growth. Who can borrow? You're an entrepreneur. MPR today is about 26. Can you borrow at 26 or 30? You can't. You can't. So the country has got to ask itself real questions. How can we fund, like your question, Tony, very important. How can we fund you to grow and to hire more people? That's the question. If they can't fund you, then what's the point? What's the point of GDP at 20 billion? Why do you have $50 billion in foreign reserves when Tony doesn't have money to hire a sales girl? This is what I'm saying. Macro is not talking to micro. We are quoting macro. But the economy's problem today is micro. People are hungry. You are quoting GDP. You are not wrong. GDP is growing. But you've got to recognize that macro and then say, this is how we're going to translate that macro to micro, to that affects you, your day to day. That's what we are hearing, Tony. So thanks for that, yeah? Let's get, I don't know this guy's name. Let's get African Instinct. This guy, let me see his name. Madoski, okay, Madoski. African Instinct, go ahead. Tony, appreciate your comment, yeah? We'll get African, then we'll get African Instinct, you've got the floor. Going one, going twice, going twice. Let's get Madoski. Madoski, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, good evening.
Thank
you for having me.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, I'm an avid follower of you, and I appreciate this opportunity you always give to have this intellectual conversation, which is not bipartisan. I've been listening to a lot of people, and there are many things I want to address. But first things first, I agree with many things you have said, and I'm glad that it's coming from you. Because as much as I'm a follower of you, I feel like there are certain things you are biased about when you make certain points. But regardless, I think I agree that Tinubu has done the heavy lifting. And I agree also that we are back to where Jonathan was. We are back to where Jonathan was. And these things, I want to believe, takes time. Just like one of your speakers said, no matter the policies that government make, whether good or bad, there will always be criticism. Just like in the US, where you are very familiar with, you understand, there are many people opposed to Trump today, with his policies, with his takes on many issues in America. But regardless, I feel Tinubu dropped the ball, just as you said, when it comes to power. He really dropped the ball there, because he said it himself, just as you rightly quoted, that if he doesn't fix power in 4 years, he should be voted out. That is a huge statement. And like we all know, power is key to the progress and development of any economy. Without power, there are many things you can do that will not come to reality, or people at the grassroots will not feel it. You're also right with the fact that he has done well in the macroeconomy, but it has not been connected with the microeconomy. And that's what the ordinary people in Nigeria want to hear, just as you have also said. Nobody cares about whether Nigeria is making more money, whether we have more money in reserve or anything. Nobody cares. Nigerians are suffering. As much as I have sympathy for Tinubu, I think he should have focused more on developing or investing more in what would benefit the ordinary Nigerians, or bringing palliatives or stuff like that can cushion the effect of this hardship on Nigeria. The last speaker that spoke talked about NISAL. I'm also into agriculture. I don't believe in, because of things I know and things I've seen, I don't believe in government giving loans or grant anymore, especially with that NISAL issue. Because under Buhari, NISAL disbursed billions of Naira to farmers, people in agriculture, especially rice farmers, where they give us fake rice pyramid and all those things and stuff like that. There was a lot of corruption in that thing. There was a whole lot of corruption. In fact, the NISAL boss at that time was eventually arrested. I think his case is in court now or stuff like that. I think, just like the last person said, for us to grow as a nation, we need to help the SMEs. And I feel like those loans to help the SMEs should be given by banks or places like that to help SMEs develop. But the thing there is that government should try as much as possible to help reduce the interest rate, because with that, people will not default. Like the NISAL case now, because it was mostly grants. People violated it. People, there were people that took 20, 10, 30 million and, they didn't pay it back. And there were nobody, it was not accountable to anybody. You understand? So I believe, and concerning that coastal right, I think I like your take on that also. I just feel energy and insecurity has been the bane of Tinubu's administration. I think energy generally, because when I say energy, I'm talking about fuel, power, and every other thing that is under the energy. Mm-hmm. So I believe as a country, because Nigeria is a very complex country, even that security, I feel, is even more political driven, because we've always had insecurity issues, whereby if you look as far back as Obasanjo, Yaradua, Buhari, every president has always had an insecurity issue. And I feel like it is more of political driven problem than just something random that just spring up from nowhere. So that is my take on it. It's not like I have any question. I just want to contribute.
I hear you. I mean, it's so, and I hear this is a narrative I sometimes read on Twitter. So let's just try to break this down again, right? It's not a flex to remove subsidy. Anybody can remove subsidy. I think all three, Atiku, Obi, and Tinubu that were contesting, I think all three would have removed subsidy. But the difference is, what would they have done after they removed subsidy? Tinubu removed subsidy and did nothing. That's why he's suffering the fall in consumption. Everything in consumption numbers in Nigeria, according to NBS, if you compare Q4 2024 with Q4 2023, it fell almost 90%.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, 90%.
So I agree.
Yeah, you can't have an economy where consumption has fallen nearly 90%. And then you are saying that I removed subsidy. Because what's happening is that the more you say you remove subsidy, you are making people annoyed. People are saying, okay, you remove subsidy and I'm suffering. And you're saying, it's like, I'm an economic guy. I understand what removal of subsidy and what the peg means. I understand it. That's why I say I support it. But to keep on saying I removed subsidy and plate of rice has gone from 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000, it's now becoming like people now connect removal of subsidy with suffering. That's the problem. Remember, Tinubu has not done anything new. He has gone back to where Goodluck was. So build from there. Goodluck had insecurity, right? Like you said, everybody had insecurity. But I think what's going on now is really, really massive. You know, I shared the chart of insecurity from 2021 to make that point that you are making, that insecurity has been in Nigeria since 2021. But we can't have that as an excuse. The same Tinubu told Goodluck to resign if he couldn't fix insecurity. And Tinubu is now friends with Donald Trump. Trump is bombing Nigeria. Is he saying that under Goodluck, Obama didn't give Nigeria arms? Obama refused Israel and the US from giving Nigeria arms. Now Tinubu is friends with the President of the United States. The NSA goes to see the Minister of Defense in America, Secretary of Defense in America. So they are friends. What have they done with that friendliness? Thank God they bombed the ISIS people. I saw a tweet where the ISIS was telling members not to come to Nigeria because it was too dangerous. ISIS was warning members, don't come to Nigeria and all that. So we can't give excuses again. This is 3 years in. That's what I did in the space today. We are 3 years in. So the president, like we said at the beginning, triage. I think he's doing too much because he wants to win the election. That's my view of Tinubu. If today they are doing Bill Road, they are doing Sokoto Badagry, they are doing Lagos to Calabar, they are doing, I think, Enugu to whatever place. They are doing everything because they want to touch every part of Nigeria to win the election. That's fine. But when you spread yourself thin like this, you are not going to achieve everything. Remember, the budget, 50% of the budget goes to debt. 50%. So he's working with 50%. But his every day is a new promise. We promised us to 40% salary increase. Abi, where will the money come from? Already in 2026, Q1, we're already 2 trillion below target. I'm just giving you data here. And that Tinubu is the one giving himself,
you're right.
giving himself headache. Nobody asked him for these things. Pick 1 or 2 things and do it. Goodluck was doing train and Almajiri school. Abi, nobody asked him to do all these things he's doing. Pick 1 or 2 things and do it. And then second term, he's got 4 years. He doesn't have to pan out on anybody again and go out and do it. But for now, like you said, the micro is suffering. The micro needs help. We need to bring down, if we're not going to bring down interest rates, we need to find a way to support growth. We can't say we are CBN, we are economists, therefore we're not going to reduce interest rates. And the people are suffering because industries don't have cheap credit. It doesn't work that way. We have to do something for them.
That interest rate is very important.
Yeah.
That interest rate is very important.
Have to do something for those people. Yeah, perfect step. Let's go, Olayinka. Thanks so much. Olayinka, hop in real quick. Olayinka, go for it.
Yeah, can you hear me right?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. It's just a little bit of contribution based on from what Tony said initially. To be honest, I'm not a fan of Tinubu. I criticize a lot on X. But again, truth need to be told when we need to discuss generally about Nigeria. When it comes to funding SME, right? I think some of the problem, like the last speaker spoke about, we need to come back to individualism. Our Nigerians themselves and those resources. Yeah, I'm based in Canada, right? I've lived in Uruguay for 15 years before moving down to Canada. I know when the government is trying to help small businesses, how organized they are, and how those small businesses make sure there's a turnaround of whatever is given to them. But I've seen cases in Nigeria where small businesses collect money, and what they use the money to do is actually to tapa. They travel out. They do not use the money within the country. So how do you get these to affect the common man? Because you collected money so that you can benefit other people. Because small businesses are the foundation of an economy. I can tell you here in Canada, most of these small restaurants that you see around the corner, where the government gave them $20,000, $10,000. There's a Nigerian here called Chidi Wazobia. When I came here, that's where I first started buying African stuff. He got $80,000 grant from the Canadian government to start business. And they do come to the business oftentimes to supervise to make sure it's still there. And he's been paying back the money gradually. But in Nigeria, you see cases where the government actually tried to give people money, but what do they use that money for? Not what they told the government they want to use the money for. That's my contribution on that. And again, when it comes to the grassroots, I'm not a fan of taking these politics into grassroots because Nigeria is not ripe yet for full democracy. Because the only thing we do in Nigeria is party affiliation. My mother-in-law, when it comes to going around with one of those women that goes around for APC, she used to be one of them. So what do they do? Like we saw the first lady doing some days ago, sharing cars for the women leader, giving them money. So there is this woman leader in Ajiromi, fellow the local government in Apapa, near Debule. They give her this money for the local government. But what will she do? She goes selectively to those who are APC members, not for the whole local government now. You see, if Tinubu likes, let him release 10 billion, 20 billion, 200 billion to the local government. The people in that local government does not feel it. Why? Because the chairman is only concentrating on those who are party-carrying members, those who have card with APC. So the funds is getting to the local government, but it's not getting to the people who needed it the most if you do not affiliate with the party. So there is a systematical corruption in Nigeria that needs to be dealt with. If we don't deal with that, there is no way we want to progress. And again, when it comes to building, like you said, Mr. Kalu, they make sure they are touching a lot of infrastructures in all parts of the country. The sole reason for that, I can tell you, is because they have an election they want to win. Not because they really care to do something. We saw some days, for those of you that who saw it online, I can't remember the name now, the El Salvador president, that young guy.
Yeah.
See the multi-billion
hospital,
dollar
right?
Hospital he built for the people. See the equipment, see everything. I compare that money to what we can use in building houses for the judges.
Yeah, he's building 2 schools every month. They're renovating 2 schools every month in El Salvador.
That's correct. But look at what Nigeria is doing. You spend 27 billion to build one car park at the bus terminal, and one rain destroy that 27 billion away. Now you build mansions for the judges, but what have you done for the common man?
So let me I hear you. I think you're just raising a very, very great point. So let me just answer this corruption thing, right? Remember in Nigeria under Akinwumi, we wanted to share fertilizer. How did he do it? To avoid all this political thing and corruption, he used cell phones. They were sharing fertilizer with your cell phone. Farmers got cell phone. The government will give you a voucher on your cell phone. Then you go and pick the fertilizer up, government will pay. The point is this: technology has solved most of these things. You don't need to fight. Why are you giving money to a woman to give to other women? When you have technology, you have NIN-enabled phones that you can sit in your office and hit a button and all the women get money. Anywhere you see on earth that there's cash being given, there's fraud. Anywhere.
Absolutely.
Anywhere. Talking of Nigeria. So you hear Nigeria, they said they gave millions of households are getting 75,000 Naira a month. That's a lie.
Big lie.
If you go to my village and you give 5 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 75,000 Naira a month in that village, not the whole village, just 5 people, that village will change overnight. Just 5 people. Do you want 75,000 Naira is in Nigeria? But they say that government say they are giving millions of people 75,000. It's of course it's a lie. Well, how do you know it's a lie? I asked them on Twitter and I challenge them again on let the government answer. We don't need to know the names of the people. What electoral ward got that money? Then what bank did you give the money to? Then what tax did the bank pay when they got the electronic money transfer? We can easily know how much you gave from looking at the taxes they collected because they must pay the tax on electronic money transfer. They will never tell you this. It's fraud. Goes to what you're saying. You know, in Ireland, if you take your Nigerian business and you move to Ireland, Irish government will employ workers for you in Nigeria to sell your goods here in Nigeria. Do you know that? So let's say you have a manufacturing company in Nigeria, you move to Ireland. The Irish government will employ workers in Nigeria for you to export your goods from Ireland to Nigeria and sell it here. These are people that know what they are talking about. So we're not. These are not. It's not magical. The same folks you have working in Nigeria know these things I'm talking about in Ireland and let's say in Canada, but they don't want to do it. And I believe it's a thing about that they are scared that if you give Nigerians economic independence, then elections become real. The reason why you can give Nigerians rice is because they are poor and hungry. Imagine if a president comes and says, after 4 years, I will take poverty from 80 to 20%, like what China did. What will happen in the next election? You can't give anybody rice. So the electoral class will now go out of business. Like I said, focus on your local government guy. If there is no more hunger, because Nigeria we're not suffering from poverty in Nigeria, we're suffering from hunger. You know, in the past we suffered from poverty. Now we're suffering from hunger. People are hungry. Forget money, forget minimum wage. People are hungry. They don't eat. There's no money to eat. So when you give somebody rice, they'll vote for you, long and short. If I go to Nigeria today and I go online and I say, come and collect a bag of rice, and you swear you vote for me, I'll win elections. So you've got to break that poverty from the whole democracy thing. But if you break it, that means next time I go and say, come on, vote for me to collect rice, people will say, why should I go for you to collect rice? I can feed my family. So elections break down. And that's what the politicians do not want in the country. You are fighting Tinubu. You forget that all the rich people are in a clique together. They always give themselves money. They always do the same thing. You are not voting PDP or APC or Labour or whatever, NDC. You are voting rich versus poor. And as long as you are not rich, you are poor. And when you vote for them, they are not passing policies that affect you. Give you a good example. The CBN, we say, does not do development. When IATA threatened to stop Nigeria from the airlines coming to Nigeria because we are owning airlines, IATA Airlines, what happened? CBN paid them in a week. In a week, CBN paid IATA off. In a week. But have you ever in your life heard Nigeria subsidize food? They can subsidize fuel. Have you ever heard in your life Nigeria went and subsidized food import? That they imported rice for 100K, but I'm going to give it to you for 10K. You can never. They don't subsidize food, but they subsidize fuel. Who imports fuel? Rich people or poor people? Once you have that mindset and you start to hold, and again, I'm saying this so just hold your local government guys, your legislators, hold them to account, because that's how you talk to the president. When those local government guys can no longer vote nonsense, then Tinubu would have to adjust. Look, Tinubu can wake up today and say he wants to borrow $100 trillion. Between God and man, Akpabio will sign, the House guy will sign. Abi?
That's for sure.
Good.
For sure.
But let Trump wake up today and say, Trump, American president, let him wake up and say he wants to spend money on ballroom. Are you not seeing the wahala is getting? Because they put pressure on the local guys so they can't go to Washington and vote. They can't. Obama had to squeeze blood from rock to get Obamacare passed. Many people lost their vote. The Democrats have still recovered from the losses they lost when they passed Obamacare. But here, people just wake up, they will say want to pass a bill that will tax solar panel. Nigeria has no power. You want to tax solar panel, and a legislator will go and vote for that because he has no fear that when he goes back home, he can lose elections. He has no fear. But you can't chase Tinubu. Tinubu is an Aso Rock. Chase your local councillor, your local government chairman, your governor. Chase them. When they can no longer vote nonsense, Tinubu would have to change his policies to make them vote. That's how democracy works. You are not going to change Tinubu, but you can change your local government chairman. Go after him. Go after him. What I mean, go after him electorally. If he goes to market, ask him. Don't you say in America, ask him questions. All of you in America, not in Cameroon, if you are from Cameroon and you fly to the West, stay in a hotel, they have this thing in Cameroon. They will find your hotel and they'll start to call the switchboard of the hotel. They will call it, so they will block it. The hotel will have to check you out. That's what they do in Cameroon. Here, Nigerians are just, we're chilled. We would even do home video with the guy. I'm chilling with it. Wait, Laika, real quick, so let us speak.
Yeah, sorry. The problem here is this.
in a country where democracy really works, there is something very fundamental: the rule of law. Not that the Nigerian people cannot hold a local government chairman accountable, but Nigerian politics has been playing for a long time fear on the side, politics on the other side.
I don't think so.
If you stand up, let me tell you. Let's take Ijora local government as an example. I'll give you this tough area. They have a local government chairman that all the Agbero in that street is loyal to him. The moment you stand up to question him, you either pack out from that area or you be in trouble. Why? Because the people where they are eating crumbs, if you dare speak up, you are in trouble.
I hear you.
How will democracy work?
I hear you, Olayinka. Olayinka, I hear. Let me give you 2 examples. Didn't they elect an Okada man in Kaduna?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't have to.
That's one exception. That man.
Okay.
That man
No. I hear you. But again, look what I'm telling you, right? Nigeria passed an anti-gay law. How long do you think to pass that law? A week. 1 week. Did anybody say no? No. Why? Because they know that even they knew that if they say no, they can't go back home. That's a bad example to keep. But I'm just saying that, listen, it's what you want to fight for. If you want to pass a law on religious, maybe hijab, to wear hijab and go for exam, God bless you. You can't play with that kind of law. Any law to do with religion, sex in Nigeria, your legislators will vote according to the way the people want them to vote, because they know if they vote wrong, they cannot go back home. I watched the debate on gender, whatever. I've forgotten what the bill. That bill was to say a man and a woman are the same in Nigeria. This was a law that a man and a woman are the same. That sounds very simple. They got all the votes. When they got to the National Assembly, one guy got up and said, in his religion, a man and a woman are not the same. That's where the bill died. Because the legislators know that if you vote wrong, you cannot go back home. So why do we have the power to vote on these things? Religion, sexuality. But when it comes to economics, if they say vote to borrow, they will vote. Because people don't understand that how economics works in Nigeria. That's why I do these spaces. The more people understand how GDP, whatever works, then it's easier for them to pick up and say, this is wrong. You can't go and borrow to import consumption. And then the more people understand, the more they can challenge their house members. Nigerians will only vote for what they understand. Go and pass a law. Even Tinubu cannot pass a law to say he wants to stop DSTV from showing English Premier League. Even Tinubu can't pass that kind of law. Nobody will vote for that law. Akpape will not vote for it. Why? Because they know the youth will burn the place tomorrow. That's what I'm saying. But they can pass a law to borrow. But they can't pass a law to say they want to stop EPL. Pass a law that says we will not watch Chelsea. No one should wear Chelsea jersey or Arsenal jersey. If they burn you well in Nigeria, pass that law. They can't pass it. And I'm giving you... It's the reality. They can never pass that kind of law. Why? People will hold them to account, and they don't want to be held account. So they pass laws that people don't understand, and let them get away with it.
Yeah, before I go, let me just say
real quick. Sorry.
This one or two last thing. While I was in Uruguay, right, and Argentina, we all know how Argentina was a very good country. When I moved down to Uruguay in 2008, I went to Uruguay in 2008. Argentina was one of the very best countries in South America. Their money is super. But all of a sudden, due to corruption, they fell into great, what's it called now? Inflation came and this and that.
Yeah.
But do you know what the government did? Even not this current government, not this new one, even while I was back in Uruguay, both Uruguay and Argentina, the people were suffering because the economy was not in good shape. A government that thinks about the people know how to cushion the effect of hunger. What did these two governments do? Now, everything you buy and you bring into Argentina or you bring into Uruguay from US or anywhere, there's always a percentage of money you pay because that's how they generate fund. But during this big problem, right, the government decided that anybody who's member of their family living abroad, send them either goods consumable or items to wear less than $500, between $100 to $500 will be free, because they know that these people have family abroad. If we cannot help them because the economy is too hard, their family can help them. So we don't want to tighten the neck of the family who is trying to help. Like in Nigeria now, a lot of people are suffering. We can see that every day. So what is the Tinubu government doing for the people who are in abroad, remitting dollar to their family? But no, they come online and say, oh, highest remittance of dollar in the history, clap for Tinubu. But the inflow of money is coming because there is a lot of poverty. People are suffering. And now, when you now send some goods to your family at home, for them to even clear it is a problem. Yes. Because they have to pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
They don't think about the people.
I hear you. I hear your point, and you're right. And like I said earlier, what can Tinubu do tomorrow to reduce the cost of living in Nigeria? Tomorrow, what you can do tomorrow, you can call Minister of Finance and call customer and say, from tomorrow, use $1, 100 Naira as your reference rate for exchange in Nigeria to import. Leave all that nonsense that they are following CBN. Just pass that law. That means if I import rice into Nigeria, they're going to convert at $1, so $1 to 100. Prices will just crash. You're not because it's imported.
Absolutely.
And you can do it for 3 months. You can do it for 6 months. You know, I was telling a long time ago, import food. They were abusing me on Twitter. Now they've imported food. Inflation has fallen. Now go further. Do import. So if you bring in a car, you do $1 to 100. Immediately, cars, machinery, fuels, everything will crash. Even if it's for 3 months, give people a 3 months, let them breathe for 3 months. Then you can say, okay, should we continue this? Should we not continue it? But you just can't say we're going to do everything as economists. We're going to fight inflation. We're going to raise interest rate to MPR to 30. Okay, we're going to block. We know these things. They're not the first economists to come to power. But even the military, when they came to power, they did PTF. We had SURE-P. You have no program. Tinubu has no economic program to cushion the effect. And I'm not attacking him. I'm giving you reality and facts. So this is his promise. If you don't fix that and you stay on macro GDP is 3 point whatever, and MRBC's plate of rice is still expensive. It's like you are winking in the dark. Nobody's hearing what you're communicating. You've got to go read down. Olaika, nice interaction. We got to go. Let's go to Elisha.
Thank you.
Welcome, Olaika. Thanks so much. Appreciate you. When are you going to come back to see us? Bring those dollars, yeah? Elisha Jacob. Yeah, go ahead, Elisha. Elisha is not there. Elisha, let's get Le Creative Incorporated. Clean energy, eco-friendly, metal addictive plus subtractive manufacturing. Jesus, man. Leo, what is that? What are you doing, sir? What does that mean?
That's the creative. It means the creative ones.
The creative ones. I know, but you're saying all these things. Clean energy, eco-friendly, metal additive plus subtractive manufacturing for land, sea, air, and space. That's heavy, man. What you do?
Yeah. We manufacture in the United States. We also export natural gas and LNG.
Nice.
Through.
Fantastic. What's on your mind, man? We're talking about the economy of Nigeria. We're reviewing 2023, 2026, looking at Tinubu's performance, some good, some bad, some very ugly. What's your take?
Yeah. To be honest, the simple answer to that question is no.
No.
You know, he did not deliver on his promises. In his own words, he promised Nigerians stable electricity. We're getting to the 4th year, and the national grid is still collapsing.
Yeah.
We're not getting as much. So I would score him, being generous, I would score this administration out of 10. I would score them 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10.
Okay.
because, as you said, I was expecting some form of industrialization. Pulling people out of poverty has been replicated in many societies. Pulling people out of poverty in 2026 is no longer rocket science. Shouldn't be trial and error anymore. There are so many models from Asia, from Europe, from the Americas. There are so many models that have been tried and repeated that have worked for many nations. Tell me how, for example, let me give you an example. That coastal road that is not going to benefit anybody, that will only benefit those who in the foreseeable future, that might have properties in Eco-Atlantic.
That's not true now. That's not true.
What's not true?
It will benefit Nigeria, even if you are in, say,
No, what I'm saying is, how will I explain it?
I hear what you're saying. The location, the guys that are just located on that road will see an increase in their asset values. You are correct. But investing in the coastal road benefits the GDP of Nigeria. Let's not debate that.
No, the picture I'm trying to paint is for the masses, the common masses, those that don't have assets.
Yeah, it will still benefit the common man, because you can still get palm oil coming cheaper to Lagos from the east. You can get goods, petroleum going also there. So it's all good. I mean, I want us to focus on what is the issue, the coastal road. It's not the coastal road.
Now, let me explain why I brought up that coastal road, and why I mentioned the industrialization, and why I mentioned pulling people out of poverty. Imagine using the resources that were allocated for that coastal road. Imagine using those resources to establish manufacturing plants.
I hear you. I think we talked about that already. Yeah, I totally agree with that point. That we have to look at the economics and say, I'm sorry, I'm not interrupting you. I'm just saying I hear you.
No.
But we are saying that, yes, the opportunity cost of the coastal road could have been other things. I hear you completely.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. The administration is oblivious of the common man. Their policies are not considering the majority of Nigerians that are actually living below global poverty line. Global poverty line.
Okay.
It took me less than 24 hours to apply for a natural gas import and export authorization from the US Department of Energy. Less than 24 hours. They contacted me, eventually contacted our company, did their studies, did their findings, and within a space of about less than 2 months, the authorization was issued, and we started, getting clients from Mexico, Canada.
Okay, look, I need to round up, if you don't mind.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that in Nigeria, there's a lot of potential that is being tried. Nigerians are highly intelligent people. There is no enabling environment for prosperity for someone to say, okay, I want to live the Nigerian dream. our youths don't have, their potential is being stifled, and they are looking at streaming, TikTok, frivolities. A nation that should be industrializing, a nation that should have export capacity, a nation that should have export capacity. So yeah, that's just it, Kalu. I don't know why you did not let me to land.
Yeah, because I want us to. You are not landing. Because you're. I want you to go straight because lots of people. You land your point. I mean, your point is well taken. I'm not interrupting. I'm just saying, go to the point. I mean, it's what we're talking about is just that we've not had the promise has not been fulfilled. I hear you, and you also agree with us. Yeah.
Yeah, it has not been fulfilled. So to round up, I will simply say that every well-meaning Nigerian, regardless of your tribe, regardless of your religion, we are ready to invest in Nigeria, but we cannot. It all boils down to who we are going to give the mandate in 2027. The international community, when they look at your leadership, it dictates even how some investors will approach your nation. Okay. If you have the right people there, you attract the right people. You attract the right investors. You attract the right, it all starts from the top, basically. Right. Yeah, that's just what I actually want to say.
Understood. Thank you for that contribution. I appreciate you, sir. Let's get Cyrus. Cyrus, what's your take, man? Cyrus, you have to give me a full breakdown of this, of the Tinubu administration. Where you
mean, Kalu?
Has he done well? Should we adopt his model going forward? What should he change and all that?
Yeah, it will be difficult, based on what has been happening so far, to even justify some of the even the administration comes in. For example, something like fuel subsidy removal. Imagine, and this is something about when you have a good idea, you have bad implementation. It might be very, very difficult to sell some of these ideas to Nigerians going forward. And that's why a lot of people can kind of resort back to things are counterproductive. So for me, what I see for the past 3 years, I'm trying to be honest, I'm trying to be fair to the administration as possible. For me, is lack of coherence and lack of preparation, right? And lack of understanding processes itself, right? In policy decision making. And you could see this, in the way they roll out policies and the things that they do afterward and whatnot. Whether it's subsidy removal, whether it's CNG, where they floated in Naira, right, with no CBN government in place when Naira was floated, right? And things like that. They removed the subsidy, they said it not removed it, they removed it, and things like that. So there was a lot of contradictions in the things that they were doing, and the market does not wait for anybody, right? Demand and supply does not wait for anybody. People react, the market respond, there was panic, there was anxiety, and what happened is the economy just got out of control, and they are trying to put things back in place and whatnot. But like I said, it may be very, very difficult going forward. People were able to sell the Obasanjo vision after he left the office, the reform that he put in place, because people saw some tangible results in how public finance was managed, in how the economy turned around and things like that. That might be very difficult to sell again to an average Nigerian going forward. Things are really, really out of hand because of so many factors, right? And for me, I feel like you could see it in what everybody has said so far, the anger, the rage and whatnot. These are things that should not have happened. You came in with this political and economic vision to have a more, fair system, less distortion in the market, more, supply side economy and whatnot. And then you mismanage it with all kind of wrong processes and things that should not have happened. And I think another thing with the government, in the way I look at it, Kalu, is they are very, very, they don't like any kind of criticism. Like, even during the tax reform,
no one does.
Yeah, no. Some government, like for example, Jonathan government, right, would welcome some kind of dissent on your part, some kind of thing that they can look into and then correct. But even during the tax reform, on average, objectively, many of us support the general principle of the tax reform, and the things that differently look at.
You're breaking up a bit.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I think I'm back. So, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but just breaking up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, Cyrus, you're breaking up real big time. Let me get to Franklin. Sorry to fix that your audio, right? Let's get to Franklin. Cyrus, fix that audio. Come back to me. Franklin, hey, Franklin, you've got the floor. Where are my guys on Twitter? Ooh, lots of comments. Franklin, what's up, man? Cyrus, fix that. Franklin, project manager and farmer, businessman, passionate about building systems. Where's Franklin? Franklin, what's up? Real quick, go for it. Okay, Francis is not ready to speak. Elisha has spoken. Let's get Jami Kazi. Jami Kazi. Is it Jamie? No, Jami Kazi. Jami, what's up?
I'm good, Mr. Kalu.
How you doing?
Great to be here.
Same here.
I'm doing great.
Thank you so
much. How
much.
about you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking, sir. Appreciate you. What's happening?
All good, all good. I've been listening in for a while, and I think great stuff. What do you say?
What has touched you?
Well, everything has touched me. I think a lot of emphasis has been shared, towards the power issues Nigeria has been facing, right? But I think all through our discussion, I know everyone here is learned. Everyone here is, most of us are really expert. Yeah, so I think we can actually drift a little on in, talking about solutions, right? We've been talking about the issue, talking about the government, how bad, things are currently, not meeting up with the masses' demand, even some of their key manifestos, right? They are not even meeting up with it. Yeah, so I like the fact that a lot of persons have spoken about, what would have been done better, right? Key areas that would have, trickled down to the common man on the streets, right? But if you understand something, what I've really understood about, and should I say, got to, from my research, got to understand about this government. Like the other speaker said, the government has actually not been close to the people, right? All their policies, fiscal policies and everything, they don't put the masses first, and I don't think, like you rightly said, Nigerians are not really difficult to rule, and we just care about the basic. We care about good road, power, there should be food for us to eat, edible food for us to eat, and just some other basic, just to keep the life and body going, but all of these things has been taken away from us, and it appears that, trying to give us this basic is like a rocket science, right? So in as much as we've been talking about the problem, I think we can also do better by talking about the solutions, right? What can be better? It's happening elsewhere. I was just, going through a YouTube video by Tayo, when he visited Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan, and his experience about the place. Everything was just superb. I know he visited the capital, right? One of those documentaries, but you could tell that there's a lot of development happening within us, just our neighboring countries. People are really growing. It might not appear that they are in the global map, but there's a lot of peace. There's a lot of growth in also their GDPs too. So I just think we, in as much as we are discussing about this, we can actually take leap from what's happening in our neighboring countries. Right now, we are battling insecurity, we are battling power, we are battling hunger, we are battling inflation. Like, everything is just choking, right? So it's just best we, delve a little about, this can be done better. In terms of power, Kanji Dam has been there for too long. Infrastructure-wise, the tools, the apparatus that can give us, the capacity we want are outdated. There's a need for us to, even the borrowing of money too. If we can avoid borrowing of money and most likely borrowing expertise too, and resources, I think it will help us. These are things that we can discuss.
So you're asking what I want to just sort of end the space because let's just call today. So look at what we're saying, right? It's not fixing Nigeria is not rocket science. It's a very, very easy thing to do. Do you know why? Because Nigeria has a lot of gap, a lot of infrastructure gap that if you simply just did one or two things, you grow the GDP. We'll go to a country like Switzerland. What are you going to do in Switzerland to create growth? They have power, they have roads, they have infrastructure, they have education, they have health. How do you grow Switzerland? It's almost impossible. Go to France, go to the US. That's why those countries have difficulty in growing their economies. They've got everything. So if you put a new power plant or a new coal plant or a new road, it doesn't add anything to the GDP. It might not be over capacity. You get the marginal, diminishing returns, per capita. But come to Nigeria, if you simply just, not 24 hours power, if you simply made power 12 hours and it was guaranteed that from this time to this time, there'll be power, GDP will double. The GDP will literally just double. If you fix the road from, say, Lagos all the way to, say, Kano, so a truck would just step on the pedal, 100 miles per hour, and drive from Kano to Lagos. No paying bribes on the road, no insecurity, just step on the pedal in Lagos. Again, you get basis points on the GDP because you are fixing bottlenecks, infrastructure deficits. You are allowing the economy to operate at its maximum potential. So anyone can do it. Like Tinubu came to office, removed the peg, removed the fuel subsidy, and he's got macroeconomic stability because those things were bad. And there are more things that he can remove. Let me give you an example. Why do we have states? No, only federal can register a company. Why? Why do we have only states can issue driver's license? Federal can issue driver's license or can register a company or can attract capital. Why? Why only the federal? Why not the states? Why can't states register companies, incorporate those companies, and then allow those companies to grow and support them? Why only the federal? So if you start to devolve powers, you're also adding more to GDP. Look at Land Use Act. Today, if you own land in Nigeria and you want to go take a loan in Nigeria, you have to go to your bank and create what's called equitable mortgage. But it's difficult to do because that means you have to sell your land, transfer your land to the bank as title. In America, if you have land, you can walk into a bank and do a HELOC. So anyone that owns a property in America can potentially get a HELOC. Not the same thing in Nigeria because we don't have title to land. So fixed Land Use Act, your GDP also goes up. Fixed Railway Act, your GDP goes up. Fixed Inland Waterway Act, your GDP goes up. Look at fintech. If you're registered in Nigeria, not only banks can do loans and deposits. So insurance companies can take loans and deposits, your GDP goes up. You see where I'm going to with this? You don't need to do this. There's so much opportunity in Nigeria that if you fix just one policy, take out one bottleneck, GDP grows. That's your answer right there. You don't have to do much. Just go to call people to the room and say, what is stopping you from growing your company from 100,000 to 1 million? They will tell you. Then do it. Just call a meeting, go to the market, call a meeting. What's stopping you in this market from selling times 2 what you're selling today? They will tell you, we're paying tax to this, we're paying this, we don't have power. Fix it, it will grow. And that's the annoying thing about Nigeria because these things are known but are not done. I'm not saying that it's new. It's not. So, and when you say Go to your leadership and vote the ones that are doing rubbish. I'm talking about the local government, the state guys, the councillors. Those ones at the local level that you can get that cannot easily bribe because they don't have money. Vote them out, hold them to account, put the pressure, send the pressure back up. That's how to do it. You can't change Nigeria by trying to change the president. It doesn't work that way. Go and change from the local level. When they cannot pass laws that are inimical to growth, they will start to pass good laws. And then the president will have to change to adapt. That's where I'm going to with this. That's my own policy or my own strategy for Nigeria.
Okay.
Hope that makes sense. I had a lady here that was going to speak.
Actually does, yeah.
We've got to tie in rule of law with the economy. Nigeria is already we're entrepreneurial already. So we just need the government to get out of the way. In many countries, they're not entrepreneurial. So they need the government to come and tell them what to do. The three industries in Nigeria that have created the most jobs were created outside the government: Nollywood, Afrobeat. What's the last one? I can't keep the last one. They were all created outside the government. Fintech. Government didn't come and say we have a fintech policy in 1970. Then we got fintech. Government didn't say we're going to have a Nollywood policy, and then Nollywood was created. These were all created by the sweat and blood of the young, innovative, entrepreneurial Nigeria. So imagine what they could do if they had more runway. They can create much, much more in Nigeria. But the government if you remove the government of Nigeria, GDP will double. The government actually is pulling down things. It's the government that is pulling down things, making things difficult. Go and get this license, pay this bribe, hire this. They are the ones in the way. Get out of the way. Give us power and get out of the way. The country will move on. That's the problem with the country that I sometimes just kills me. Dumebi, how you doing? Dumebi, no. Guys, we've got about 15 minutes to go, and I'll call today. Appreciate you guys. Dumebi, you've got the floor, Dumebi. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, thank you. I'm fine. How are you doing too?
I'm doing very, very well. So thanks for hanging out with us.
Pleasure speaking on your space for the first time.
Are you serious?
So, yeah, I've never spoken on a fraud. I find this topic very interesting. So I said, okay. Actually, mine will be more of a question to you than, let me just say, seeking your own opinions concerning some enlightenment on some things than just only a contribution.
Yeah.
They get it. So I think before I send my question forth, I believe the major problem we have is not just, we don't have bad policy, but we just have poor implementation. But however, not just those implementation, I think we lack continuity. And when I mean continuity, you discover that, okay, a government is doing it already. Then when another government comes on board,
they just change it. Yeah.
It just changes, as in, it's something that have been invested more. You know that there are billions of dollars already on this project. You just abandon that project just because you are not in good time or you are coming from opposition. And a good example of this thing is in the case of UWIN during the Jonathan's time. When Buhari came in, that was already helping our agricultural system. When Buhari came in, he stopped it and he began the Empower.
Mm-hmm.
We know billion Naira that was invested in Empower. But I see no reason why Tinubu, coming from the same party with Buhari, should have stopped that thing, because that technically that thing actually helped reduce the rate of poverty in the terms of unemployment. Because even though some of those people were not even carrying out their jobs or doing the stuff they are being assigned to, but that token that they were was actually helping, and it helped to open the body during the Buhari time that we didn't really see the numbers of unemployment and poverty go up. So Tinubu stopping it, I still don't get it. And now, he didn't even create another sector or forum to, help elevate this situation. He just, focus more on this microeconomy, abandoning the whole of, macroeconomy, abandoning the process that would have helped microeconomy. And that is why our poverty rate has increased to this level. So now my question now is that, what is the motivation behind the increasing the allocations of state government if he actually knows that these state governments are not going to effectively use these resources?
I didn't get the question. What did you say the question was?
I said, I don't know what is the economic brain behind him increasing state government allocations.
Yeah.
Knowing fully when we have the problem of management, and we have been seeing it. It is not constitutional. This allocation is not constitutional.
It is,
and this is almost
it is constitutional.
You just want to win election.
No, it is constitutional. So let's just be clear. Let's not attack the man unnecessarily. You know, the law states that when you sell anything or you earn anything, you have to pay the money to the consultant revenue. Yes. So he's doing the right here. Yeah.
Sorry, I mean constitutional. I'm not saying the allocation is not constitutional. I mean the increments.
What increments?
The allocations to state government.
It's constitutional. It's legal. He's doing. That's what the law says.
That you should increase it.
Increase what?
The allocations.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Whenever you sell anything in Nigeria, like crude oil, or you make any revenue, it has to go to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. So FARC, when you removed fuel subsidy, what you did was that you increased the revenues from NNPC back to FARC. So the money went back to FARC, and then that's why it's being shared. Where I fault him is this. He should have done the PTF, or he should have done the SURE-P, where you say, okay, we're removing subsidy, but we're going to take that increase, even if it's 50%, and it's going to go to this fund. This fund is still owned by the state, so it's still owned by the state.
Yeah.
But he will tell the states, if you invest in power, I will give you counterpart funding of X amount. Just like how we do universal basic education, where the federal government has a fund, and when the states take their money, they bring counterpart funding, they release the money to them. Or even just say, okay, take your money, but if you do this, we're going to support you with this. Or even say, we're all APC states, we're going to take our money, put in an APC infrastructure fund. So Lagos is APC, Ogun is APC, Edo is APC, Anambra, I don't know, all those states are all APC. You can do Coastal Road, that whole road, and say, we're going to take the extra money and do APC road. Same thing, Lagos, Ogun, is it Kogi, Kwara, they're all APC, all the way to Kebbi. You can do the same APC thing there. Apia that is not APC, Anambra is not APC, they all key in. But it wasn't being innovative, just took the money and shared it. If a state gets the money, some will say, I'm going to fund pilgrimage. Some will say, I'm funding river port. Some will say, I'm funding, it's all scattered. If you scatter money, it doesn't have any impact. If you take that money together and you say, we're going to take all this money, do you know how much you've gotten from FARC? Maybe 2 trillion, just extra.
Yeah.
So you take that money and say, we're going to focus on power, on gas, on roads, the impact would have been more direct. But than just giving to governors, then the governor take the money, give to local governments. Local government the money is shared. We're not seeing any impact. That's what's going on. It's not, we didn't target this extra revenues. We just took the money and allocated to FARC because Tinubu wants to get governors on his side.
Yeah.
He won elections because governors backed him up. So look at his cabinet is filled with governors. So ex-governors, I mean. So it's the same thing. And maybe in his second term or whatever, maybe that's his plan, is to change them like what Obasanjo did. But I mean, you've wasted 3 years. This removal of subsidy I supported it because I believe we are going to take the money, create a fund, and then fix roads, ports. People would have seen infrastructure being fixed. You go and you fix Lagos Port, you fix Edo Port, Warri Port, you are building Coastal Road, you are building road from the money from the fuel subsidy. Don't give any money out. No, people will say, wow, okay, I support this. It's like PTF. I don't know who was old enough for doing Petroleum Trust Fund. PTF was all over Nigeria. Doing roads, they were in my school, fixing universities, doing this, doing that. Petroleum Trust Fund. That was how we had the SURE-P. But you can't go and point to what this removal of subsidy did in Nigeria. You can't point to, and we're still borrowing. We remove subsidy and then we're still borrowing. So it's like double whammy. Who's going to pay the borrowing back? It's not the government, it's you and I. So what's the point of removing subsidy if we're still going to go and borrow? What's the point? Where did the revenues go to from removal of subsidy? Where did it go to? Every day I probably will sign loan. So it's crazy, man. Crazy. So Ephraim, are you good? To me, you're good. It's dropped up. Let's get Ephraim, El Nino, and then I promise guys will call today. Let's say Ephraim and El Nino. Ephinos Dawn. Ephinos, guys have these simple names. Ephinos Dawn. I don't know what that means. El Nino, please go ahead. Financial crimes analyst.
Good evening.
Hey, how you doing, El Nino? Says you're a financial crimes analyst.
So when you say that we're borrowing, I just want to ask: is there a way we can, fund our budget deficit without borrowing?
No.
Or we basically limit our budget to the revenue that we get yearly?
Yes, but that's a bad idea. We should borrow. There's no problem with the borrowing. I'm not against the borrowing. We are spending, is the spend that's my problem, not the borrowing. The spending, not the borrowing. We are spending on things that are not important. Last year, we had 7 trillion added to the budget for legislators to do street lights and the rest. We don't need that. We don't need street lights. We need more of things that are going to create wealth in the country. Even if it's grinding machine for women, post-production for agriculture, that's what we need more of. The streetlights are good, but for every naira you spend, what's the opportunity cost? That's where we're getting it wrong. We've got to invest to grow the economy, to create jobs. And everything is good, but not everything is expedient. That's what Shakespeare said, Abi.
Yes, I'll take the 7 trillion to be like what the senators added to the budget. We can't say that there's 100% fund mobilization for this, but I get the point that you're trying to make, right? People say, or even you mentioned that the money should not have been shared, should have been put maybe into like an escrow account or something, or even maybe like a sovereign wealth fund or something like that. Yeah, it's a good point, but don't let us forget the issue we had with the excess crude account, for example, right? Even for subsidy payment, it wasn't like we're having extra funds. We're just having the funds that are meant to come to us. All the available funds that are meant to come to us, and all the encumbrances that was either in our expenditure are just being removed. And all the money that are meant to accrue to the federation is what is coming in. And what the president has done is just basically, okay, this is the money that has been available. It is money for FARC. It should be shared among the federating units. And that is basically what the government has done. It is just in recent times with the US-Iran war that crude has gone, more than the budgeted benchmark, that I expect to see excess crude. And even at that, I'm sure even the excess will be used to pay our loans that we have done the crude for loan deals. It would be used to pay them off quicker, rather than say that keep paying the same amount. You can then use the excess amount that you have from the crude now to say you're paying off the loan quicker, to give you more fiscal room. Overall, for me, I think that the president has done economically has done well, because if you ask me that, if I go to the average ordinary resident of Abia, would you rather have what Alex Oti is doing, or would you rather buy fuel at 200 naira? Which would you prefer?
Yeah, but
I'm sure
we are in agreement. We're not saying that we should have retained the subsidy. I support the subsidy being removed. What I'm saying is that the president always boasts, and his party always boasts, that they are the largest party in Africa. They control 30 out of 36 or something like that. And I'm saying, when you got this oil windfall from the removal of PMS subsidy, there were more innovative things we could have done than simply sharing it into FARC. Legally, I've said it here, legally, he had to share to FARC, legally. So I'm not saying you should break the law. I'm saying there were more innovative ways. The party could have come together and said, we're going to fund projects together. They could have called all the governors together and got them to sign up on things. I mean, this is a guy that can remove a governor on emergency rule, but you're telling me that same president cannot make that governor to spend money from FARC for infrastructure? You can't claim power in one hand and then say you don't have any power on the other hand. He dropped the ball. See, if this has succeeded, if FARC had been shared to governors, and governors had all taken the monies and had invested in their states, and they built infrastructure, everybody would have clapped for Tinubu. But Tinubu himself has told the governors, you're not spending enough. That's why people are looking at me in the federal. It's the same thing I'm saying. He should have found a way to get that money, to get the governors to commit to doing capital. Even if let me give you a good example. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala had to share FARC. She has no power to hold FARC. What did she do? She started to publish the details of what was going to the states and local government areas. That's all she did. So she started it. So today is now a common thing. But before Uncos Okonjo-Iweala, no one knew how much a state got from FARC or what the local government got from FARC. So imagine if Tinubu has said, okay, Minister of Budget, separate the FARC, show it clearly that Abia State will get 1 trillion from normal FARC and 1 trillion from rule of subsidy. So if I have that kind of information, I can go to Abia and say, hey, whatever, you got 1 trillion extra. Where is the money? That's the point I'm making. You just can't say, oh, we have to share the money, therefore let's share it. No.
Or Kalu, if you so just before you move the mic, right? If you remember, the federal government is helping Lagos fund this green line, is helping Kano fund his own metro line, is helping Kaduna do the same thing. And you know what the people said?
That's immaterial. That's not the federal government.
How do you say it's immaterial when you say that?
The federal government has always funded infrastructure for states since 1960.
Yeah, but it's the same thing you are saying they should do now.
No, I am saying that federal government was paying a subsidy, which meant that you have confirmed that revenues were encaptured. Now you remove the subsidy, which means that you now release revenues back to FARC. I am saying there should have been a mechanism to track and ring-fence those FARC funds so that the people of Nigeria can highlight and say, this is the extra money that came from the rule of subsidy. What have you, governor and local government chairman, done with these extra funds? I have said that it is legal for Tinubu to have shared the funds. I'm not asking to break the law. I've said it here, it's legal. The money came from FARC. It should go back to FARC. I'm not trying to break the law. But I am saying Tinubu can't claim power on one hand and claim I have no power on the other hand. If he can remove a sitting governor, then by Jove, he can tell that sitting governor where to spend his FARC. We can't abrogate and appropriate at the same time now. That's what I'm saying. You can't say you are powerful and you're not powerful at the same time.
Maybe you're not listening to me. I'm telling you that outside of FARC sharing, outside of FARC disbursement, federal government is helping states to fund some certain projects. Like 1 trillion naira Kano Rail. It's not it's not normal FARC sharing. And this is an example, just like the Lagos Green Line. It's not normal FARC sharing. This is an example of what you said the government should do that it has done. But the people are saying that the government is using it to buy political patronage.
Yes, but I'm saying. But my response to you is that the government has always done counterpart funding for states in Nigeria since 1960. That's a different topic. I'm not saying you are wrong. I'm saying who built Festac? Who did all this federal housing estates you see all over Nigeria? Who did it? Shagari? He went to state and said, give me land, I'll build federal homes. They've always done it. This is a different thing entirely. This is federal PMS subsidy was paid by NNPC. NNPC is owned by the federation, not the federal government. Now, NNPC now giving more money to FARC. I am saying, if you have a national master plan, the APC government has a national master plan. The APC states have a national master plan. You should have called the governors and said, what do we want to fund with this money? From Lagos to Calabar is APC. From Lagos to Borno is APC. Lagos to Maiduguri is APC. Only a few states are there. Are you telling me that if you go to Abia and you say, the APC states want to build a ring road in the southeast of Nigeria, Abia will say, no, we're not going to build. No. And I'm saying a president has that kind of power that has the reach. Goodluck didn't have this sort of one-party state that Tinubu has. So God gave Tinubu one-party state for a reason. It's the reason why he got it. It's the reason why he has more states House of Assembly than Yaradua, Goodluck, or Obasanjo. There's a reason. And the reason is to do things like this, that when he gets more money, he can take a more nationalistic view and be targeted on how to grow the growth of Nigeria. Like people will always say now, people say Goodluck was doing Almajiri school for elections. People will always say, so if they're going to say, Kukumarem hang you on a big cross, go and do your work. Has he not built Coastal Road? Is it not there? Are people not saying that the road is not good? Is the road not there? So I'm saying that same idea of the Coastal Road, if you had gotten all the states to say we're going to take the excess money and fund that Coastal Road, you'd have gotten that road done. I'm not debating. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that was a missed opportunity there, that we could have done much, much more than what we're doing now, El Nino. Really. Unless you are saying that you are okay with how Nigeria is at the moment. Is that your argument?
No, you are. I'm basically speaking to your topic.
Exactly.
The Tinubu deliver on core economic promises.
I'm giving you the numbers, though. These are not my numbers. I went to the 20 Hope Manifesto. Look at what I'm showing on the screen today. Inflation, I scored him. He has done well. I'm being very unbiased. I know when you join the space. Inflation, he has brought it down. I scored him a green mark. Unemployment, I put in there, he has done well, 33 to 4%. And I explained why it's 4%. It's nonsense. You can't say 1 hour a week is it. But the numbers are there, 4%. I put 4% there. GDP per capita, he has done bad. I've scored him. Oil output is bad. I've scored him. FX reserve, he has done good. I've scored him. I've used the numbers from Nigeria's federal government, both from the APC and federal government. The numbers show that the macro of Nigeria has done very well, but the micro is suffering. Food is expensive. Food is growing up by 15% every month. That's what inflation of 50% means. It's going up by 15% every month. That's what it's showing. But we have 50 billion in foreign reserves in the CBN. That's macro. Micro is this food price when MBC is going up. And I'm saying where the government has, in my view, dropped the ball is that they did not convert the bold reforms that achieved macroeconomic stability. They did not connect that to the average cost of living for the average Nigerian. That's my argument, sir. And the data is out there for everyone to see. You don't have to agree with me. But if you go to your store now, you want to buy gas or fries or recharge card or petrol, the costs have gone up since 2023. They're not gone down.
We can speak to the data. We can also extrapolate the data, right? And we know that for a largely low-cost energy-driven economy like ours, any spike in energy prices is going to have.
But there was no spike in 2023, sir.
What do you mean there was no spike?
There was no spike in 2023. What was the spike in 2023? What was the spike? Tell me.
It moved to PMS moved from what was it? How much was it?
Because you removed subsidy, but there was no international spike. So
that's a spike now.
No. You're getting it wrong. Today there's a spike in oil because of the Iran war. In 2003, there was no spike. We took the decision ourselves to remove subsidy. Nobody asked Tinubu to wake up on day one of his initiative and remove subsidy. Nobody asked him to. He could have taken He could have taken his time and said, "We're going to remove subsidy 10% every month for a year." He could have done that. So
would have fallen into the same trap of still.
Why would we fall into a trap? He removed subsidy. Costs went up by 300%.
No, there was no budgetary allocation for subsidy beyond 30th of June.
Sir, I don't know who you think you're. Sir, even when he removed subsidy, he kept on paying subsidy without budgetary approval. The NNPC is.
Subsidy or we kept paying. Which one are you sticking with?
Sir, we removed subsidy and we kept on paying. So NNPC. What are you talking about? Are you debating this? Should I give you the figures?
You're making two different points.
I'm making the exact same point. The subsidy was removed officially, and Nigeria kept on paying subsidy. Fact. NNPC kept on paying.
So did we remove subsidy or we kept on paying?
Two of them at the same time.
Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Okay, good night. What are you talking about? He's saying good night. The president came out and said subsidy has been removed. And in August, the president also came back and said that that he's not going to increase any cost. And from August of that year, NNPC started to pay subsidy again. They continued for a long time and then they stopped. Go back, pull up records. You will see many press reports stating that the subsidy kept on being paid. It's not something you debate. If you want, I'll post it on Twitter. Go do your research. It's not to come and say good night on Twitter. You can't say things if you don't have the data. The NNPC pays subsidy. NNPC is not in the federal budget. It's not. So NNPC can pay subsidy without going through the budget. Understand your fiscal philosophy in Nigeria. Ola, hi Ola.
Kalu.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. I just wanted to allude to what you said. It is true that budget subsidy was still being paid after that. Just to educate this, telling me. Oh, it's okay. It's an interesting time. Thank you.
Welcome. So, I mean, I can share it if you want. Once the space is going to be ending now, I'm going to share on Twitter. I'm going to go and share the tweet here. Like I said, the government removed subsidy and then went on the ground and kept on paying the subsidy. How true NNPC is a fact. And I'm going to share on Twitter once we get out here. All right, guys, all that is left for me is just to thank you all for coming to this space. We wanted to have a data-rich intellectual space to discuss. Sir,
did you see what I posted on your?
Yes,
on your
I saw it. I saw it in Jumbotron. I saw it. I was going to read it once.
Is that something that is capable of, changing these our micro effects that we're talking about?
No, what you are posting is a tactical solution where you have a very, very good guy, Tony Lumelu, trying to change the country. That is fine. And that's a tactical approach, but we need a systematic transformation in Nigeria.
I posted another one because when I was starting up, by the grace of God, I was paid in the US. I was paid to a retired colonel in that retired from the US Army, and he was the one that coached me on preparing to become a US federal government contractor. He guided me up until we became a government contractor, and he told me that according to the law, that every federal government contract, there is a set aside percentage for small businesses by law. Imagine we had such a law that ensured that small businesses in Nigeria must have a percentage of federal and state government contracts set aside for them. Such that you can be a subcontractor to Dangote Refinery, or you can be a subcontractor to all these major companies as an SME. Such that when you give out loan to SME or you give out seed capital, you don't just throw them out to the wind to fend for themselves.
I hear
After
you.
2 years, they lose their capital or they lose their whatever. That way, when you have these SMEs, first of all, you link them to major established successful businesses or business people.
Okay.
Like Tony Lumelu.
No, we gotta go. We're running up. We gotta go. I hear you. The point.
For your space,
the point I'm trying to make again is this, right? You can have 100 Lumelus. That is still going to be not an institutional transformative agenda for the country.
It can be.
There are many.
It becomes institutional by law. That's the problem.
You cannot have an individual doing something good. There's a guy going around Nigeria giving money to teaching hospitals. It's not going to become institutional because that guy is doing it.
So if you have a law that says that every
then you have a law, but you are okay. Hold up now. Hold up. If you have a law, then it's a law. That's institutional. But if you have an individual doing it, it's not institutional. That's where I'm going to.
The individual is different. The individual is just a coaching mechanism to ensure that those people are guided, are mentored. You understand? The institutional aspect is where the law comes in.
Okay.
That ensures that an SME must have a place in the federal and state contracts.
Okay. Well taken.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, guys. We've been here for, believe it or not, 3 hours, and we still have a lot of people here because we all love Nigeria, right? I want to see how well we can contribute towards the growth of Nigeria. The president has done well in many areas. Like we've said, the macro indicators are looking good. They're looking green. But I think in my own view, where the president has not really done a lot is to translate those gains at the macro level to the individual micro level. I'm talking about the cost of plate of food, the cost of having a baby, giving birth to a baby in Nigeria. Insecurity is not economic. but he has also not done a lot in that aspect. We've got to bring this home and to say we have 50 billion foreign reserves. What does that mean for the SMEs in Nigeria? SMEs are going to create jobs. If they can't create jobs, what's the point of having $50 billion in your foreign reserve? That's the point really that this is bringing out to us. We've got to have at the dinner table things that we can hold on to and say we are going to eat this because the macro reforms have performed well. We can't eat GDP. We can eat rice. And rice has got to be cheap so that we can afford it, feed our kids, they go to school and get education. There's no point with green macro and we are suffering, right? But on that point, I think it's been a very, very balanced discussion. Thank you all for joining to talk around this with me. I appreciate you all, and I hope you come back next week. We're going to have another session on that topic on money, the economy, and of course, finance. Thank you so much, guys. My name is Kalu Aja. Thanks for joining. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.